Grand Rising, my good people. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. We are about to get started today on a beautiful Wednesday, September 20th. Beautiful day, beautiful day. As we get started, it's a beautiful day. Welcome to Why I Love Religion with Coach Renz. On this channel, what we do is attempt to help those who are walking away from religion by giving them insights into the ancient workings of the materials to which we have been able to collect over the years. We are learning how to be comfortable and safe and secure in our understanding of walking away from religion and finding our own path. Right now, I am giving a little bit of time for people to come on the live. So if you're watching this in Memorex, you might want to fast forward 5 minutes to the 5 minute mark as I ensure that certain things are taken care of on the different feeds of Facebook, YouTube, and the TikTok. All right. One other thing I forgot to do. And Billy Boys go. How we doing? Let me know who's on the live, where you're coming from. Who's your people? We're going to talk about one of my favorite things today. I'm going to have a little conversation of the biblical and Anunnakis all wrapped up in one. The Bible and the Anunnaki people. All together. I can use that picture. Yep. How many of y'all have anybody read about or heard about the evil winds? The story. We gonna, in order to tell this story though, I got to go back. In time. You know, it's got to get way back in time for this one. I like going back to the oldest story possible. So we're going to talk about the Sumerians. And then we're going to decide what's believable and what's not. What seems plausible. Just one more thing there. All right. Got that part. Got to make sure I let all the peoples know. All the peoples. Donald, Grand Rising Donald, who got here quick. Hey, Rita, Grand Rising from New Jersey. New Jersey, Rita. Donald. So you haven't heard about this, Donald? Eugene and Indianapolis, by way of Chicago land. It's cold up there. What up, Willie? How we doing? I love these Toscano cigars. Toscano. A nice wood oakiness to it. Houston, Texas. We were just talking about Houston the other day. But today, where I want this cup of coffee. I want it on this side. But so maybe I'll put this on that side. So it makes sense to me. Gotta make it make sense. Ease of access. All right. All right. How's the training company doing? It's doing pretty good, picking up new clients for the life coaching. Oh, got two people from this. Didn't somebody else say they were from New Jersey? Cry Fries in Crystal, Jersey. I could swear I saw somebody else. Yeah, Rita is in New Jersey as well. We got two Jersey folks up in here. Being invaded by Northerners, carpetbaggers. Nuclear bombs on the stone wall. So Willie already know a little bit. I can tell Willie already knows this conversation. All right. So Willie I expect a lot of support and corrections if I say something incorrect from you, sir. Yeah, I expect some corrections. Or, if I say something that's a little off, I expect you to be able to say, hold on now, I thought that was because I'm them names. But we're gonna get a little bit deeper into it than I've ever kind of gotten deeper into this story. Now, most people, when we were doing Genesis, what's wrong with the Bible? We was reading through Genesis and we got to the Sodom and Gomorrah story. I gave a light kind of breakdown of the 7 winds, the Sumerian version of the Sodom and Gomorrah story. But today, we're going to get a whole lot deeper into that story. Just an opening here as I smoke. Here's something I doctor, then I'll say it unless, all right, cool. All right. Before we get into this story, well, first of all, as always, I'm going to thank everybody who's on the channel. Thank everybody who shares the videos, trying to make it happen, where this is all I do. So I appreciate you guys for sharing. I appreciate any and all gifts. Thank you guys on whatever platform you're on. I really appreciate it. Grand Rising Dwayne. What's your reason for leaving religion? I studied. Just studying. Haven't completely left at all the way yet. I do believe in faith in the high power of the spirits, as the spirits are the wind. I shake them in. It's just studying and then seeing things studying and realizing that this religion can't be true. It can't be the basis of it. Just like what we're about to go over today. The study of this information was one of those things that made me turn my head because, of course, most of us grew up believing that the Bible stories are the oldest story, that's the original. Only to come to find out that the Bible story, it's not the actual first time. It's a spin. It's a sequel. It's a remake. Sometimes adding more information, sometimes taking away information, definitely changing the characters, the importance of the characters, and so on and so forth. So today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the original Sodom and Gomorrah story. But not only is this possibly the original Sodom and Gomorrah story, but this also may explain why the Sumer, what am I trying to say? The kingdom of Sumer. It wasn't really a kingdom, but the civilization of Sumer was wiped out, was destroyed in a matter of weeks. It just disappeared. And there's no rhythm, reason, or rhyme for it. There was no conquest of them. It just disappeared. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about that. So um, let's get started. So most of us grew up hearing the Sodom and Gomorrah story. How did the Sodom and Gomorrah story go? To paraphrase it, you basically have Sodom and Gomorrah are these cities that are supposed to be wicked, wicked with people, just wicked, wicked, wicked. It doesn't really explain all the wickedness, but just wicked. And three men approach Abraham, and they like on their way, and they're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham brings them in, realizes that they're different, that they weren't just regular men, and so he brings them to their to his tent, give them some food, wash their feet, all that sort of thing. And he start they tell him what their mission is. Our mission is to go and we're going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And he's negotiating with them. Well, are you going to kill everybody? You know, you're going to kill the innocent, the innocent with the unjust. What if there's 50 innocents in there? What if there's 40, there's 30, 20, gets down to 10? And then as they get down to 10, they decide they're still going to destroy the city, but we're going to give a warning. We're going to let some people know. And of course, his Lot plays the role of the people that are going to be let known that this city is about to be destroyed. And according to the story, two angels walk into the city. They don't pay correct homage to the city. And so in a buck breaking attempt, they are just taken to Lot's house to keep the men from going after that strange flesh, as they like to say, or from buck breaking. They weren't keep them from being raped. So they go into Lot's house. They get warned. The men leave. Tell Lot to leave. Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. The cities are destroyed. Hellfire, brimstone, rain from the sky. The whole deal, right? As I've always said, the Genesis account is very much the cliff notes to the Sumerian accounts. And so we're going to explore a bit more of the Sumerian version of the story. In order to do that effectively, I have to summarize what you will find in the Utu text. So the Utu text, the Epics of Gilgamesh, the Atrahasis, and there's one other codex that escapes my mind that you'll find it, but it's another Sumerian codex. I think it's called the Urus text. So when you go and you research now if you want to make it simple, I would suggest getting, even though I know some people are going to go against it, but Zechariah Sitchin's work, I would research Zechariah Sitchin's work. Of course, I knew as soon as I first heard of him back in the day, he was going to be, they were going to come after him. You know, they were going to try to break his work down and say that he's incorrect. Because if you were to go and read and study and accept his work, then what you're effectively doing is diminishing the Bible. And that's the reason why I believe he's been attacked by so many people, both theological and secular, because they got to keep that Bible. They got to keep that Bible right now. But in researching and I'm talking about Zechariah Sitchin and beyond, and also just looking at the information in the area to which, and let me get this part in there right off the bat. In the area in which Sodom and Gomorrah existed, they do find that land in and around 2400 BCE, that there was some type of massive explosion that created that quickly turned the sand into glass, a certain type of glass that only happens from an explosion. That from the Dead Sea, pillars of salt were thrown out, and salt was thrown all over the land. So that's where you get your salt. His wife turning back into a pillar of salt. But that salt was over the land. That the land was irradiated. Grand Rising Denise Lambert, Neff. So all of this area was recently in the last decade found to look as if a blast happened there. Immediately they tried to, this is still proof of Sodom and Gomorrah, so God's word is true. Others tried to say it was a meteorite attack, a meteorite that came and exploded over, and they compared that to where other places that has happened, like up in Russia and other places like that. But those things didn't quite fit the bill. There's only one thing that in our world, natural and unnatural, man-made, that fits that bill of the type of destruction that happened there and the ensuing Sumer communities right after. And that would be some type of nuclear bomb, nuclear missile. Is the only thing that fits this category. All right. Because they also found, we've known for a very long time, of the other cities of Sumer, Nippur, these other cities that were just evacuated, like in a rush, in a haste, not we got to leave, evacuate, pack up all your belongings, all your things. It was more like, oh shit, get the hell out of here, because this storm is just killing people, and we got to get the hell on. And people just left in a rush. When they found some, and Nippur, and they saw that we see that it's like people were sitting down for dinner, and the knife and fork, it was just sitting there like they were just getting ready, or people was in the process of cooking, or going down the street. They was in the process of regular life, and then all of a sudden, as if an alarm went off, and they were all told to leave. And many died, but people left. The Genesis story really doesn't tell all of this. I'm eager to find out why the world came to hate gay people. We're going to touch that, but not really hit on that. As I already said, the Sodom aspect of the story was not really about being gay, but it was about a way of, when people come into your town, if you don't come into the town a certain way respectfully, then they buck break you. So it wasn't that those men were constantly seeking male flesh or even strange flesh of angels. It's just you disrespected the town, and this is how we treat people who disrespect the town. And I'm gonna try to stay on story without getting too far. African origins of Christianity. Yeah, I wouldn't even bother with that, because there is no African origin of Christianity. Christianity didn't originate in Africa, that's for sure. But so sticking to story. So let's get into this. Let me get through this, and then we talk about anything. So what we have when reading the Atrahasis, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Utu text, codex, most of these codex, and when we look at them, what we see is a real formation of a story, of more of a plausible story at that. Now, according to the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were beings who dwelt with them. They weren't these spirit beings. They weren't these, thank you, Denise. They weren't these ethereal concepts. These were beings that lived with the people, that they lived for thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of years. Which made them seem immortal. They gave praise to these beings. They built cities for these beings. All these things were done for these beings that live with them. Whether you can, and if you can look at the concept of the people from the heavens to the earth, they came doesn't necessarily mean spaceships as much as it could just mean from the sky. As the Mesoamericans called the Native Americans, the Hopi called them the sky people. So they could have been previous intelligent civilizations that existed on Earth prior to the Younger Dryas, but in the Sumerian story, they claim to come from another planet called Nibiru. So for today, we're gonna say they aliens, right? Had to leave us back good. So today they aliens from the planet Nibiru. And in this story, and that could be a possibility from the aliens, or and the aliens just been here for a long ass time. So they could be both. But they're aliens from Nibiru. And Anu, who is a descendant of King An, is the ruler over these people. He got two sons. Enlil and Enki. Now, Anu's reign was being challenged by Alalu, right? And basically, Anu in combat, and here's what's weird: they fight combat butt naked. They in this butt naked combat fighting between Anu and Alalu. Don't get stuck on the butt naked. Keep on rolling with me, right? Y'all keep rolling with me. Don't get stuck on that. I just throwing that in there. But they so Anu and Alalu get into this battle. Anu whoops Alalu's butt. Alalu packs up, according to the story, 7 nuclear weapons, 7 missiles. They don't necessarily say nuclear weapons, but we're going to call them nuclear weapons. Packs up these 7 weapons, and he leaves and flies and leaves in his spaceship and comes to Earth. Now, I understand one of the reasons why Alalu, but they had one of the problems they had on Nibiru is that their ozone layer was being screwed up because of all, their war fighting and their own nuclear wars and things of that nature, which is destroying their environment. Now they knew there was this substance in the universe that would fix it, and it's called gold. And they needed to sprinkle that monatomic gold in the atmosphere. It would close up their ozone layer and reflect the sun's radiation back out from the planet. It wouldn't have this hole where radiation is just pouring through. So he goes, Alalu leaves after getting his butt whooped. He goes and he finds the nuclear weapon. I mean, he has the nuclear weapon. He gets to Earth. He finds the gold. He radios back to the home world, back to Nibiru, and says, "Look, y'all know I gotta add my own flavor to it. Look at him. I know I lost the battle, but I got missiles. And next time Nibiru comes into the orbit of the Earth, I'm gonna blast that lung out the sky, and I got the gold to fix it. So either you let me be king or not. So we ain't going for this bullshit, right?" So then Enki and Enlil, who are the 2 sons of Anu, they say, "Look, Enki is like, hey, Dad, let me go down there and check it out, make sure he got the gold, see if he got the gold. If he ain't got the gold, then, it is what it is. But if he got the gold, then we got to do something, and if he got these missiles." Well, Enlil is like, nah, don't let him go, because, see, understand, even though Enki is the oldest son, he's not in succession to be the next king, and not in succession to be king, because his mama was a concubine, whereas Enlil's mom was Anu's sister. So that's the bloodline that can become king. He established that incest as being how they get king. So, but Anu said, "No, okay, go ahead, Enki, go check it out." Enki comes down with one of his partners. They check it out. They see that they found the gold, but then they whoop they beat Olalu's butt again. So Olalu now got his ass whooped by the father and the son. So Olalu gets his butt whooped. And after he gets his butt whooped, this will make a great movie. After he gets his butt whooped, Inky and his partner, I forgot the dude's name, I think it's Sud. Or no, Sud's the... No, that's not his partner name. I know who Sud is. Inky and the guy that's with him, they go down into the Apsu. The Apsu is Southern Africa, and they hide these nuclear weapons, right? And one of the reasons why Enlil was pissed is because why Enlil wanted to go, because the people on Nibiru was pissed at Enlil because he had got caught raping Sud. And since he had molested Sud, he was looking at him like something's wrong with him. And he was already a very militaristic person. So then when he radios back and said, yeah, we got the gold. Yeah, there's gold here, in the Mesopotamian, which is why your Bible says when they built Garden of Eden, and it's supposed to just be Adam and Eve. And then it says, but there was much gold in the land. Think about that version of the story. If there's only two people on the planet, what value does gold have, right? But they added that in there. That was one of those, so Rita, that was one of those things that made me say, this don't make sense. Why would gold matter? Why is that statement in there? You see the Anunnaki story, you understand why that statement was placed in there. Because that gold had meaning to the Anunnaki. So they Enlil then, Anu then says, Enlil, go down there, check it out with your brother. Let's set up a spaceport. Let's set up, a spaceport on Mars. And we're going to set up mining operations. We're going to send the Agigi. They're going to go to Mars. They're going to send some on the Mars, some on the Earth. They're going to do the mining. Y'all do your thing up there. And this is how it happens with them doing that. Now I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff that we can go into about the creation of man and all this other kind of stuff. But I do want to add that the face on Mars, y'all seen the whole structures and buildings and everything that's on Mars from those pictures, and the face on Mars, that the Sumerians claim that that's Alalu's face, because even though he got his butt whooped twice, they wanted to build a monument to him for finding the gold that was going to save their planet. All right. So that's why I bring that part up. That's supposed to be Alalu's face, according to the Sumerians. So, a whole bunch of things is going on. They got a whole nother planet now. They now made some people through a whole process. They made people. They got us, our ancestors. They're doing the mining of the gold and everything, and it's being sent up. And then you have the Agigi come down and they start messing with women. But the reason why they start messing with women is because Marduk, Inky's son, is born. Marduk, he's not a bad person in a sense. I mean, they all kind of messed up a little bit. But through this time frame, Enlil was made the administrator, the Satan of Earth, right? A Satan in Sumeria means administrator. Enlil, because he wasn't going to be king in Nibiru, because he had, violated Sud, he was going to be the, David, that's a whole lot, man, to read at one time. And you would be, okay, we're not gonna do flat Earth today, okay? We're not doing flat Earth, but the Sumerians did not envision Earth as flat. They drew our solar system, and they were all spheres. Every object was a sphere. Come on, man. Don't try to force stuff like that. But anyway, we're not doing flat Earth today. I'm not talking about flat Earth at all today. But they envision it as a sphere. I'm not going to do wrong information like that, though, when we talk about Sumerian. So, nope. I was about to go find the glyph that shows that, but I'm not doing it. Willie, no. That was that was yesterday. Not doing that 2 days in a row. So anyway, let me take some good coffee. Ethiopian coffee with an Italian cigar. Can't beat it. So, you made me lose my thoughts. So Elalu is the face on Mars. Oh yeah. So now we got all these mining situations going on, but Marduk's not a good guy, but he was right in the fact that the age of the bull was at the end of the age of the bull. It was time. Enlil's time to rule the earth was supposed to be over, and it's supposed to pass over to Marduk. Now Marduk was in control of the Levant for the most part at that time frame, and into Egypt. Marduk is also Ra. Marduk is Ra, and Marduk was like, and he was Ra to the Egyptian. He was Marduk, or you can call or Baal to different people. And his cherished city in the Levant was Babylon, right? But he also ruled Sodom and Gomorrah. We're going to jump into one little part. We're going to have to explain that part. So it's coming time for the end of the age of the bull, right? And Abraham was living in Ur, which is a Sumerian city, which is a Marduk city. And Abraham was pulled from Ur by Enlil because he was like, you still worshiping me, because those people were changing over. They were going through the process of changing over to Marduk's rule. Enlil, though, being the spoiled punk he was and wasn't getting down with that. So if you don't like it, what you do, you start a war. And one of the first casualties of that war was in Babylon. So we're going to sidetrack for just a second. When you begin a war, one of the first things that you want to do, if you're able to accomplish it, is knock out your enemy's system of communication. In Babylon, there was a tower. This tower was used to communicate to all of the people and surrounding Sumerian cities and Kemetic cities that were Marduk cities. So the Tower of Babel is not about mixing languages, but it's about destroying Marduk's ability to communicate with all his other Sumerian cities and Egypt and Kemetic cities. So Enlil, in the Sumerian story, shot regular missiles, regular rockets, and destroyed the Tower of Babel. And now the forces of Marduk are not able to communicate with each other as well today, right? So basically, Enlil starts a war with Marduk because Marduk is like, I'm supposed to rule. It's the age of Aries. So when we look at what the sacrifices were throughout the Bible, and we see how it goes from Taurus to Aries, to Pisces, and now into Aquarius, these ages were denoting different persons' time to rule according to the Sumerians. So Enlil's age is coming to an end. It's Marduk's turn, but they like, hell no, we're gonna start this war. And understand, they don't really like Marduk either because he married a human. So they're like, he married a human. And then when he married a human, all these Agigi came down. They grabbed them up by 200 humans and they started marrying humans. And then they taught the humans our science. And then when this flood was coming, we just let them motherfuckers die. And we said, let's start over. And they started over. And this is how we get to this time frame of 2400 BCE. When Marduk is saying, hey, okay, I know some jacked up things happened prior to that, but it's my turn. It's my turn now. So they're fighting a war, a battle amongst each other. And in fighting that war, Marduk, he hit two of his cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, are like battlefront cities at the edge of where Enlil's cities are, where Enlil's territory is located. So his thing is, Enlil's thing is, we have to take this area out. And one of the problems is that Marduk, two brothers, Ninurta and Ninurta and what is Ninurta's other brother name? These are what is Ninurta? I want to say Ninharsag, but it's not. Then Ninharsag is a woman. Fuck. But anyway, Ninurta and his other brother were against Marduk. They didn't want Marduk to rule anyway. So let me see. Maybe you said the name there. No, you didn't say the name. So Ninurta is against Marduk, and then he gets challenged by his father Enki. He's like, "Why are you so much against your brother like this?" But Ninurta and the other brother are two other ones who were traitorous and went to Enlil's side, and they are described as they are the two that came into the city of Sodom to destroy it. Now, one of the interesting things about it is that those two had the conversation that Abraham supposedly had with Utu. I think it's Ninurta and Utu, because it's in the Utu the Utu text codex. It has this discussion that Ninurta and his brother has, where they're talking about the fact that, hey, are we going to warn anybody, or are we just going to destroy everybody? We're going to let the unjust die with the just. We're going to let some of our people die with their people. And like, what if there's like 10 people, 20 people, 50 people? So they have this similar conversation, except the difference is, instead of the bargaining part, when the question is just asked, are we going to let the innocent die with the unjust? Ninurta just said, yeah, that's correct. We certainly will. They're just going to have to die. They're not part of the plan. It's more important that this city gets destroyed. I keep forgetting his name. I want to know his name. Yeah, but it was the two people who were having this conversation was Ninurta and Ninti. It's written in Utu's codex, but it's Ninti and Ninurta who are having this conversation. And you can either say Nin. So where did I see that at? There we go. And I'm saying Ninurta is Ninsar. Sorry, it's Ninsar and Ninti who are having this conversation. Right. Abraham was asking, would you spare some people? Ninsar was like, hell no. Kill them all. We don't give a shit. And so they are the two who go into the city, and it's more like a scouting. The whole thing about them trying to, gang bang them and all that kind of sort of thing, and the lot part, that was an addition to what what would at that time called the Eloites, right? Those are the ones who follow Enlil, who becomes your Abraham, your Abrahamics who merge with my thought process. They merge with the Octen, the worshippers of the Octen, and become the Israelites. So it's a mixture of Kemetic people and people of the Levant. But needless to say, in the Utu Chronicles, Codex Chronicles, it explores the conversation that they had when they was like, you gonna kill everybody? Yes. So they go in, and as explained before, The resulting area near the Dead Sea, that where Sodom and Gomorrah was located, the land there is irradiated. It has the glass formations are not from a blast from a meteorite, but a man-made. The closest thing we have in our technology would be a nuclear missile. But it talks about how Enlil, before the war started, Enlil had already known where the missiles were hidden, because the guy who came with Enki to kick Alalu's butt, he told Enlil where the missiles were. So when it came time for this war, Anu initially was like, I really don't want you to use nuclear, but go ahead. Most of the other deities, the Ninharsags, the Muzis, all these who were already on, they were born on Earth, so they didn't know about the old stories of what happened on Nibiru. So for them, they were like blasting them jokers, because they didn't, they don't know. It would be kind of like, it's kind of like us trying to understand today how it was like for people who lived under the Roman Empire. Like, we really can't connect with that lifestyle, with how things were. It's too far gone. In the same way that my generation is the first generation to grow up in integration. My children really can't understand integration. I mean, segregation, how things were for my mom, for their grandmothers. When they talk to my grandmother, talk to their grandmother, and before their other grandparents were, when they were still alive, when they would talk to them, it really didn't, they couldn't click with how, like, really, y'all was living like that? You mean I couldn't go in that store? I mean, I couldn't drink from that faucet? All these things, they really can't connect. So the current Anunnaki couldn't connect with not the destruction of a nuclear missile. So they were in favor. Hey, go ahead and use it. Go ahead and blast them. This is why we have to understand history and try to connect with it. So they blast them. They blow up Sodom and Gomorrah. What they did not anticipate, and what they thought, is that the wind would blow into the desert, like into modern day Iraq, Iran, blow into that direction. They didn't anticipate it coming south. And when it went south, this is where the evil winds come into play. And this is where we have actual archaeological findings. It utterly just was melting away those people. And the Sumerian story talks about how people had to run, how the face of a man was melting away, that you couldn't close. It was like no door could shut it out, no cave could keep it out, that it would come through the walls and through the cracks, and you couldn't escape it other than to run from it. And they was calling it this evil wind or this storm, that there was nothing you could do. There was no structure that would keep you from dying. And it only killed biological. They left their animals, they left everything in these cities, these 7 cities that were mainly primarily hit. An alarm did go out, according to the story, to the people for them to get the hell on, to run. Only Enki was the only one who went just far enough away from his city, from one of his cities, so that he could still see what was going on and be aware of everything that was going on, of the destruction that was happening. And he did warn most of his people that, hey, this is what's going down. But into what is the Persian Gulf area, you had this destructive storm that killed all these people. Like I say before, the Sumerians kind of give you the whole story, whereas the Bible gives you half a story, gives you the cliff notes, and it's truly based on trying to convince you that their stuff is the right thing, when evidently they were copying off of the Sumerian story. This story could also account for the walls of Jericho crashing down and the usage of that, because a blast of these two nuclear blasts in a close area would definitely send shockwaves and destroy other buildings and things of that nature. So some think that Jericho was affected by this, and this is where they get the Jericho story. You know, marching around and then the sound. So more like a sound wave destroying the city. But definitely the scientific data that has been gathered thus far would indicate more of a missile strike than a asteroid or some unknown god just smited them with fire and brimstone from the sky. But if you've never, when you see an impact, it's the movies do a pretty good job of showing like it impacts and then every dust and rocks go back up and come back down and then they rain all around for a certain distance depending upon the size and magnitude of the blast, which is kind of like how a volcano happened. Now we know it's not a volcano that destroyed it because there's no volcanoes in that area, so that hypothesis has never even really been attempted by anybody that I ever read in 40 years of this. And it's believed because they were close to the Dead Sea that the salt would have, that's why they found salt deposits in this area, because, you know, the blast area and the throwing up of material would have put material all around in those areas. And so we get the Bible story. And it is my contention that the Bible is simply trying to utilize the understanding from previous civilizations to validate its own story, create its own story, propagandize its own story. But after hearing all of that, I want to know what you guys think. Grand Rising, Big Mo. Big Mo in the house. I know I haven't read much of you guys' comments because I was trying to make sure you have all that backstory. But this idea that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of a sinful nature is not. The sinful nature, oh yeah, I forgot one part. The sinful nature of why Sodom and Gomorrah was supposedly destroyed is because there were kings and there were Anunnaki appointed kings who had gathered in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they were being traitorous towards Enlil. And that's why Enlil, that's the reason why Enlil wanted to destroy those two cities. And that's where the idea of sin in those cities come from. Is because of they were turning against Enlil. So earlier when I said that the cities were Marduk City, that was mistaken. They weren't Marduk City. Those were Enlil cities, and those cities were turning away from Enlil. And so that's why he wanted to destroy them. And so that's the true sin of Sodom and Gomorrah. It had nothing to do with them trying to sleep with some angelic beings. But that's what the Bible flipped it into. Because they have to have a reason. And during the time frame that the Genesis was written, which we're talking about in that time frame of the 6th century BCE, or in the 500s BCE, it is a common thing that when you enter a city, you go and you have to pay certain respects. It's kind of like mobbed up. Ancient corporation wars, pretty much they're territorial wars. But the cities are like you know how if you come into a city, you gotta, my gangbangers will know this. If you travel to another gang city, You go and you announce yourself and let them know that, hey, I'm here, and pretty much get permission to stay there. Same situation, but just take it on a more cultural basis, that when you come to a city, you've got to pay respects to the city first. These angelic beings, so when they changed it when they changed it to make it fit a Hebrew story, they made that the sin, that they didn't come and show respect. So now that they didn't show respect, the people, the men of this city, now want to buck break them in order to humiliate them and put them into submission. So they changed the story to fit the narrative of how the culture was in like 530 BCE. Now, but the Sumerian version is that these cities were turning against Enlil and going towards Marduk, and he wasn't having it. So I blow the hell out these cities. But they didn't account for the nuclear radiation wind that flowed from the city and destroyed the other seven Sumerian cities. And when this happened, that pretty much ended the Sumerian culture, because they couldn't go back home and then just restart things. Like, okay, the storm is past. It's not like a lightning storm. So they were absorbed into other cultures. For a good reading of it, I would say Donald was asking what books. It ain't a book, it's books. So you can get Zechariah Stinch's Genesis Revisited, but I would also get his entire series of the Earth Chronicles, which is 7 additional books. So it's 8 books. It appears that the fear tactics have been used for eons. Fear has been definitely used for an extremely long time. And this is one thing. One of the reasons why the gods in almost every religion are very human-like, and then they have these frailties of anger and jealousies and all these sorts of things, is because if you take the Sumerian perspective, and in the Sumerian story, it tells you that after a time, different Anunnaki were given different areas of Earth. Like, while all this stuff is going on in 2400 BCE, you have Anunnaki who they're over in Peru. Like, they're running things from Peru, and they talking to Enlil, and they're telling Enlil, hey, we can help you fight this war against Marduk. So you got Anunnaki all over the planet, which is why, like, when they talk about a war in the heavens and this is most likely the war in the heavens, because this was an Anunnaki world war, because Marduk is saying, I'm supposed to be the administrator, the Satan of Earth now, because we're coming into the age of Aries. And Enlil doesn't want to give up his title because he's a spoiled little brat in this story all the time. So the other Anunnaki are choosing sides all over the world. So when you see that they are the Hindu show the gods fighting on chariots in the sky, what becomes the Chinese saying the same thing. Over in Mesoamerica, they're saying the same thing. You get this big war. And because of that, this is why the Sumerian story is, I lean towards it, not on it, but lean towards it a little bit more. Not so much for the fantasy aspects of it, take all that God shit out of it, because these are just beings that they thought were gods. And I would imagine if I lived back then and I see that, hold on, Lord Inky has been here when my daddy was alive, from his birth to now, and this is the same other, and I'm born, I would think he's immortal. But That's what these stories are. They're stories that maybe have some truth that is based on, and then legendized into based on what the people thought. And then it's been changed into other people's stories, which is what we get with our Bible, with the Bible. It ain't our Bible, they Bible. What never settles with me was Moses telling the Israelites the law of war and regulations on spoils. I would have thought that their doctrine would oppose war crime. I only got one thing to say to that. You definitely, those laws were not even remotely about being peaceful. Those laws were all filled with war, and that they would go against war crimes. Bullshit. I had to do that. But yes, no. They definitely are not opposed to war crimes. But understand, those are things today we know that those are war crimes. To them, that was life. That was life to them. We know them as war crimes, but they wouldn't. That's how immoral they were. That's how. So I like to think about how, as beings, as conscious beings, we have progressed, we have evolved from the low-lying vibration morality of the people back then, and we've evolved into this state that we're in now. That those people, since they had such a low sense of morality, their gods had low senses of morality. But if you go by the Sumerian story, and they were created as a slave race, I want you to think about this. And I know I know some people are gonna get mad at me for this one, right? If you create a slave race, and then you create separations within those people, you know, the house slave and the field slaves, when they do become free to a certain extent, they will still treat each other poorly. I've studied this, and we've all know about it as far as slavery in America and how things were when it was over. You still had a lot of contention between Black people. I personally witnessed this behavior in Rwanda. When you leave a people like that. But the only difference, here's the big difference between Rwanda and why Rwanda has been able to come together and be like a beacon of greatness in 20 years compared to the Americas. When they fought there, after their war was over, they owned their own country. They were their own country. And so they fixed it and had their own government and land. We've never had that. We've continued to have to fight these moments. So as long as we continue that, that's why, and don't have it of our own, unification becomes more difficult. Whereas it only took Rwanda less than 20 years to unify their people. What does heaven mean up above? It's up there in the sky. But understand, they didn't understand the difference between our atmosphere and space. So for them, when they wrote it, our atmosphere and space was one and the same. So no matter how far into the heavens you went, the birds were in the heavens because they were in the sky. But they also, but the sky was it extended. It went forever. Yeah. People are very Victor gets the rights to the law and tell the history. Unfortunately, that's true. This is why oftentimes I try to find the loser's perspective, or I try to look at things from the loser's perspective, because then we can get more closer to what actually happened. Yeah, I see Denise had answered that, so I could just shut up about it. But yeah, it's sad that most people will only accept the history, the religions. I want you to think about this. I know I don't have any, well, to my knowledge, I mean, do I got any Mexicans on here? Any Latin Americans, Central Americans, on here? Because I find, I was watching this Queen of the South series, and the little Mexican colonel, he said something in passing, and I was just sitting there and I was like, why can't people understand this? What's missing in a person's brain? Is fear that great? Is dependency on religion so great that this man literally said, our Aztec ancestors, he said our Aztec ancestors were defeated by Cortez, and he gave us, he took away our culture, he took our culture, and and gave us his religion. And these people are the most devout. They are some seriously devout Catholics out of Mexico. But the fact that he recognized the only reason we have this Christianity because Cortez came and defeated our ancestors and gave us and forced us into their religion. That reason alone would make me walk away from whatever that religion is. Somebody came in. So when I look at my family history, and I know that, my father's family comes from the Dogons in the Mali Empire, so Northwest Africa. My mother's family comes from Nigeria with the Yoruba and Igbo. So they're more Central West Africa, West Coast, the central part of West Africa. None of them were Christians. There was no Christianity involved in none of that. But this religion was forced on them. If for no other reason than that, that's enough reason for me to walk away from this religion. If that's all that I had, and I don't understand how people can't realize that your ancestors were forced into this religion. If you are a Caucasian and your family is from England, Ireland, Scotland, the Romans conquered your people and then forced Christianity onto your people. If your family come from anywhere in Europe, they were forced into Christianity. If your family come from North Africa, they were forced into Islam. Like, Islam was pushed by military efforts of Malik. It was not done through, let me tell you this story by a man named Jeb. He was a poor mountaineer that kept his family fed. It was not told to you in a story and evangelized to you and to your ancestors, and they're like, oh, no. This shit was forced on people. So why do you stay with it? Why do people stay with it? It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm gonna do a video later today. I'm gonna have to do a lot of cutting and splicing to do this video. It's more of a relationship style video, but it's the level of ignorance of the human brain. the human brain is such an amazing computer, thought. Is the ability to think and contemplate things, but it is also like putrid. The most ignorant thing, the worst slab of flesh. Like, oh my damn. From this video that was sent to me, I probably will curse the person's name who sent it to me in the video. But the thing about it is, how do you believe in these religions? So I think that was Rita earlier asked what some of the things is. That simple thing alone is enough for me to say, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Because you want me to believe a loving God sent slavers to West Africa, and that's how my family, and that was the only way this loving God could get my family into Christianity, could get me into Christianity, was to do that? Oh, hell no. I refuse to accept that God. When you heard that one lady say, thank God for slavery, because if there was no slavery, black folks wouldn't have the Bible. That shit. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I remember hearing about that video. I was like, hell no, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Yeah. But just think about the mind of a person that they've captured you so much. They've indoctrinated you so much to love this bullshit of a deity that you literally will be thankful for the torment that your family had to go through. Your aunts, see, she only say that shit because she ain't been through it. I guarantee. I will guarantee. Y'all know I don't like using finite statements, but I would bet that there was not one. You know what? Let me not say it that way, because you do have them house ones who love master more than they love themselves, as Malcolm said. So I'm gonna say the overwhelming majority of slaves were not saying, "Oh, thank you for. I'm so glad I'm a slave, because I wouldn't have this Bible if it wasn't for that." I would say that not now one of them first ones who came, that first generation, if they were a first generation brought over, I would say not now one of them was saying, I want to be a slave so I can get this Bible. I'm so thankful that, like 5 years later after being here, wasn't saying, I used to think that coming over here as a slave was horrible, but I'm so thankful that now I'm a slave, because otherwise I would not have this Bible. No first generation said that bullshit. It is not provable, but I will stand on that nobody said that. Now, after that, some second, third, fourth generation motherfuckers who, you born and you all, either you're light skinned and living in the house, or you happen to be one of those small farms situation where it's only like it's the slave master and it's your ass and his family, and all y'all is like 10 of y'all working right there together, or 3 of y'all working together, or some slave owner who owns a damn grocery store, a general shop, and you in there sewing, and you are a seamstress and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you might not have it. You ain't got it as bad as those ones that's out in the field. You got to remember, there was some slave owners were not all farmers. They were ones who had like servants who worked in their store, worked in their business. They would so when you start getting them jokers, they might have been like, ooh, this is good. This is nice. I don't know what people complaining for. This ain't so bad. Yeah, you have some of them fools. Anytime somebody controls your freedom, you are not happy about it. For the most part, there are people who have jobs and they go to their jobs and they like their job, but you're still under control. Somebody still controls your time. So it's not comparable to back then. I'm not doing that, but I'm just, if you did the way that you can kind of like connect with it is to think about the fact that you have to go to work at certain times and do certain things in order for you to be able to live your life. If you could have your whole life lived but not have to go work, most people would choose not to go to work. That's why people play the lottery. Nobody want to go to work. What up, Norm? Grand Rising. Truly, you don't want to go to work. You just want to do the work that you want to do. That's really what that is. You want to do the work you want to do. So, yeah, these motherfuckers writing the histories, I don't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to save my life. The ones who are the victory. That's why I always say you got to look at what's the history of the author who's writing this history. What's the history of what's the goal here? What's the point? They certainly wanted. If you can't let Zechariah Sitchin's work become the basis of what the Sumerian teachings were and understandings from the Sumerian, what the Sumerian story was, because that flows into the Kemetic story as well. And that asshole who's the curator over Egyptian history, he doesn't want anything that they've already decided is to change. He wanted it to stay exactly the way it already is. So he goes against Zechariah Sitchin. You got these biblical apologists and circular Christian scholars who go against Zechariah Sitchin because they need their Bible story to be the story. They don't want him showing how, these guys might have known something. They knew that Neptune was blue. They knew that Neptune, something had happened, and Neptune was turned on its axis. They knew. How did they know? They claimed they knew because the gods told them. Because at no point of clearing the sky, you can take away all the light pollution on Earth. And yes, the sky will be brilliant and beautiful. You can take away all the pollution. Your ass is not seeing Uranus or Neptune with your naked eye. You're not. It's not going to happen. And I mean, hell, think about it. You can barely tell right now. Now, with the naked eye, you can see Mars, and Mars is not as red as NASA makes it, but NASA tells you that they put a red filter on the pictures of Mars, but it's more of a brownish red. I don't know what you would call that color. Maybe maroon. Let me think about what maroon looks like. But it's not the red. It's like a brownish red. But it looks more red with the naked eye. So when next time you're outside and you can find Mars, it has a hint of a red tint. That's Mars. It's that close. But when you see Jupiter, it just looks like light. You see Saturn, you can't see no damn rings with the naked eye. It just looks like light. You can't see the other planets beyond Saturn with the naked eye. So how did they know that there was more planets? Hey, Big Love, they might have some Georgia red clay up there. But they knew that there were other planets. They knew there was. They knew that Saturn had rings. They knew the moon that each planet had. They understood they knew Pluto was out there, but they also added one more planet because they was adding in Nibiru. And they knew that we all went around the sun. They knew we went around the sun. So somebody had to tell them. Either somebody told them or somebody showed them. Either we told or showed. most likely told. Now, even if you're an advanced civilization, and see, this is why I don't necessarily have to say it's a whole other planet. And even an advanced civilization would recognize, hey, they will have the ability to see these other planets just like we do today. How horrible. Must be talking about the slave stuff, I think. I got to remember these things are delayed. But they had to, if it's a pre-Younger Dry civilization that was farther advanced than what we are today, then they themselves would have still recognized. And they would know as much as we know and more. Then they would know that there were other planets and what's going on with some of those planets, and probably have sent satellites or went and visited them or whatever. So by the time you get the Sumerians around 9,000 BC, 8,000 BCE, they would have already known about these things and be able to tell them that these other planets are out there. And might have told them that we come from the Buru, even though they were Earth-based, just so they think that they came from this whole other world, which could be played up as a dimensional thing. You know, it's like, wow, they come from way out in the heavens. And actually, Marduk is the first one who started telling humans, according to the Sumerian story, that when you die, you get to go and live with the gods. If you are obedient to the gods, when you die, you get to go live with us. But you got to be obedient. You got to do what we tell you to do. Because Enlil was experiencing a whole bunch of revolts, human revolts in his cities. Because he was an asshole. But he was having a bunch of human revolts in his cities. Marduk wasn't having those kinds of revolts because he was like, hey, keep worshiping me, keep bringing me my food. You know, I like my food, my leader, my wine, a hen of wine. You know, you get to go live with me in heaven when you die. I have a whole realm for you. It's beautiful. It's field of reeds that you get to go live in. Crazy. In the Kemetic story, it's like when you go to this heaven for them, it's you live a life similar to the life you are already currently living. It's just better. You know, it's just you get to live with the gods, and it's just better. It's nicer. But if you was a farmer, you still like a farmer. But I guess to the Kemetic people, it was better than nothing. Better than oblivion. I get to live my life again, which feeds into reincarnation. Just at a different dimensional plane. Let me try something. Excuse me for a minute. I'm gonna give y'all a second to type some stuff. I'm smoking my coffee. The cigar will bring the sweetness of whatever you're drinking up to the surface. I've never done it with coffee. You usually do this with liquor. Oh, yeah. That's new. That's interesting. So, what do you guys think about that? What do you think about how the seven winds, the evil winds, destroyed those seven cities in Sumeria, which would easily explain how those Sumerian cities disappeared? Yep, life on a different frequency. I'm with you. What do you think about which version of Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction makes sense as far as what we found in the archaeology? Which version would makes more sense? A nuclear attack or some God attack? Which the people will still see. They will see that as gods. The gods are warring against each other, and so it's just warfare. But yeah, I think afterlife is just a different frequency that you exist on. So I'm with you on that, Valentino. Come on now, y'all gonna talk to me today. And usually y'all got a whole lot to say when you talk about the Anunnaki. So you go with the nuclear war? Yeah, I go with the nuclear weapons. I'm with the nuclear weapons because either there was somebody before here. There was I will stand on the idea that there were previous civilizations. There have been previous civilizations that were here before us, and they were more advanced. I think you're talking about civilization that had tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years prior to um, our current civilizations, and extinction level events will happen. They'll happen. Remember, like, and remember that those it was like what 6 or 7 big ass asteroids, and one of them was like the size of Earth that was hitting Jupiter. But of course, Jupiter is so big that an Earth-sized asteroid, you know, is it's throwing a big ass rock at it, but it's not as devastating as it hitting us. Mm-mm. But it's not Marduk who fired the nukes. It was Enlil who fired the nukes. Because he was fighting against Marduk. So just switch the name from Marduk to Enlil, Norman. When you're having those conversations. But yeah, Enlil is the one who fired him. It wasn't Marduk. Because remember, also think about it like this, Norman. Enlil is the one who pulled Abraham out of the city of Ur because Abraham was down with El. And El is Enlil. So even in their Bible story, Enlil is still the one who destroys the cities. And in the Sumerian story, Enlil is the one who finds the weapons that Alalu stole, which would be those nuclear weapons. And Marguerite said, yeah, you think it was some kind of war weapon? Most assuredly. Now, no Christian, Jew, Islam, is a Muslim is going to accept that. Because for them, this story has to fit their Old Testament. And the Sumerian story just does not fit the Old Testament. Now, and I think one of the problems, I like the Sumerian story because it shows them as just beings. They're not gods, but it shows where these stories come from that we have today. There's going to be a guy who's going to come on YouTube probably over the next few days, and he's going to post all hail Lord Enki. Because anytime I talk about Anunnaki and stuff, he always come on all hail Lord Enki. The thing I can separate is the fact that these deities, these beings are not deities and should never be worshipped. But we can diffuse these other religions. It just in their story, they just say it was stashed in some cavernous area in the Apsu, which would be somewhere south of the Sahara. I don't think they give an exact location in the story. Now, I don't think they give an exact location. Let me see if I can find something real quick. question, the way I. It's always about how you phrase a question. Hmm. Try a different way. Where did he hide? Grand Rising Carol, how you doing? They didn't create the desert. They actually thought that it would go out into the like Iran area, but they went south towards um, that towards the Persian Gulf. But they were already that area was already a desert, and the Sahara at this time frame was already a desert as well. So those deserts were already there. So we wouldn't have, unless you, but did it, did the radiation storm destroy the Sumerian culture? Surely it did. It did that part. Yep. Quran. Most people believe singularly out of fear and call it a call it virtuous. But yeah, it's out of fear. They are fearful, and they've been taught that, raised on it from birth to be in fear, which is stupid. It should be in here. Now it's not given like it just says in is it, I think out of Negral's Africa area, domain in Africa. That might be the one that I'm looking for. Yeah. Now let's see where. Let's see if I can find. So you go from one to the second part of the search. See, this is just telling me where Nagar was worshipped. You gotta get. I gotta. If I can get it into the time frame, this is just one of the Nagar cities that was abandoned. I don't know. That's gonna take a little bit of deeper research. Probably have to go. I probably have to go back and read more of the story again. Um, but yeah, I have to do more if I want to find out exactly where. Which I don't want to sit here and y'all just looking at this all this handsomeness while while I'm trying to do while I do my kind of research. I'll probably, and it may mean going, because I have the Zechariah Ascensions, Genesis Revisited, and the Earth Chronicles over there, um, which would be another way, but that would take a minute. Yeah, and I'm not blaming you, Quran. Sometimes you got to move away from family when they just want to badger you and beat you over the head with these religions. Yeah, and it could have been South Africa, could have been the spot. Um, some people thought it might have been Peru, but because it says the Apsu, Peru would not have been considered the Apsu. So most likely it was from South Africa, maybe Congo area, somewhere in there. Oh my God, Terrence, I'm not messing with you. Terrence said, I think we evolved from rats, a rat-like species becoming because if you follow the human evolution far enough down to when dinosaurs ruled, humans were rat-like. Humanoid species has to go through development stages before we got it half right physically and mentally. It's crazy that we might be another humanoid species after us, but it's possible. Plus, they use rats for experiments. They do use rats for experiments. True. The human genome and other animal genomes share like 80%. Chimpanzees, we share like 98% of the same DNA. But then there's all it takes is a little bit of DNA change to have a whole nother species. You want to go way, 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 we going back billions of years ago, a couple billion years ago with that one. But I do think that there will be some other type of humanoid development over time. We continue to evolve. Evolution never stops. Adaptation, whether I like because I don't want to be right there with evolutionists and say I'm exactly thinking that that there's no design to the universe. I use the term adaptation more so than I use evolution because we do adapt to our environment. I wanted to give you credit, but I can't. In good conscience, humans evolved from primates. Exactly. It's a primate. But I think what he's saying is even before the primate, you're going to get to some kind of four-legged mammal. Yeah. So I don't know. We it's something. It's something that we're probably never going to know. Grand Rising Libra lady, that's right. Wait a minute, are we there yet? No, we ain't there yet. We're still in Virgo season. My bad. Waiting on that. That Libra season is coming now. Even though I don't really get down with astrology too tough, you know, I'm gonna play with it. We coming. It's our time. Libra season. Grand Rising. Man. I don't know. There's too much information. We're a long way from figuring out all the different stop points, the points of human evolution, of where we come from, how we were, of creation. I don't think we're ever going to know it. What we do see is the further and further we look out, we see a more simpler. The universe becomes simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler. And that's like looking back in time until it's just radioactive, kind of static looking, but it becomes simpler. So this idea of a creation and it was all just, oh no, there's a process that our galaxy went through to become the planets and moons and all that kind of stuff, and to become all the stars, and then to become our solar system, and to become our planet, and then for life to exist on our planet or any other planet. There is the astronomy shows a process, and that's the real part of it. There was a process. Oh, my friend, Valentino, my friend. What are your thoughts on this life? You ever ponder why we are here? Obviously, it isn't what religion taught, but it's life about experiences and sending data, information back to the motherboard. Let me sit back like an old man. Well, I don't know how old you are, but I'm gonna assume I'm older than you. Well, young man, that there be something that I contemplate quite often. It's something that I struggle with, in the effect that when I look around and I see the level that the veil, as they would say, covers the eyes of people, and it's a question that quite frankly makes me feel alone a lot. Not that I'm any better than anybody else or anything. I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody else, but I accept that I am further along in my consciousness, my level of consciousness, than the overwhelming majority of humans on this planet. So there is the reason we are here. It is not so that the creator can have a human experience, because if there is this creative, intelligent mind, it does not require anything. It doesn't require having experiences. It's just that in the mind of the creator, we exist as beings. And as beings that have grown in consciousness, it is an innate desire for us to continue to grow in that consciousness, to grow to higher levels of it. Our purpose is of our own design. It is not the design of some other being. And that purpose is to elevate into higher consciousness. Because we do have desires and we do have needs and requirements and things of that nature. Because we're not the all. But the goal, the idea is to become more and more like the all, but never being able to achieve it, because we will never get past or can be outside of all the different universal forces that exist. So when you look at things like how they have the angelic stories, right? And there's war in heaven and all that because somebody was jealous and somebody thought that they can control it. The reason why these beings could have those wars is because you never get past these outside, these other forces. You're always constantly having to deal with them at different stages of development. So just because you go into the next higher plane, you're still going to have to deal with the same types of mentality, just at a higher plane with deeper understanding. So our purpose here is whatever is to grow if you decide that that's your purpose. If you decide that you want something, you want it better, but you have a natural desire to have a better consciousness, a better life, a better existence than the one that you're in. And even when you get to that one, there will be a desire to have a higher consciousness from that one that you're in. It's a constant every day. It would be like the thorn in Paul's side for us to continue to desire that. You know, this is where the Buddhists got it wrong into saying that the way that you reach the Buddha mind is to rid yourself of desire. If they were only talking about ridding yourself of the desires of this plane, then yes, but they're talking about ridding yourself of desire, period, because there will still be a desire at the next plane. So our purpose is just is to grow because we're here. But in that growth, like the video I did yesterday, in that growth, you have to be able to release all your earthly attachments in order to grow. That means releasing your selfishness, releasing your guilt, your shame, your fear, releasing the separation, all the different separations that we create, you know, and truly knowing yourself more than you know anything else. And then what you give, what are you providing in the community and within your own universe in your own community? Like each one of us are existing in our own little universe. Sometimes we connect with the other people and we're in a shared universe. Like Angelina has her own universe that she exists in. Like right now, life is happening to her. Things are happening to her. She's talking to people. You know, all information is coming in, information is going out. But she and I have agreed to share our universes to a certain extent, you know, and we're together because of that. We call it a relationship. But even within that relationship, we still have separation of our own universe. I have a desire to grow into a person within my universe where my contributions to her is greater than my own selfishness of contributions to myself. But to her, anybody else who comes into my universe, my goal is to contribute to them more so than I do for myself, but without harming self. Most people can't get to that. That is something that you would actually call true love. Love of self, but love of others to the point of not injuring self. All those little things, getting past your fears, your guilt, your shame, recognizing your mistakes. It is the pattern of growth. You know, there are people who are mad at me about my Africans, Hebrew Israelite. Ancient Hebrew Israelites weren't black part 2, telling me that I'm being too philosophical, and they're mad because I don't want to conquer the descendants of the Caucasians and oppress them in the same way that they did our ancestors. Like, have you forgotten about what they did to us? And these are comments that I've been receiving from that video. And I'm like, okay, so you want to conquer them and subjugate them? You want to beat them, whip them? You want to destroy them? You want to reverse this process and have them go through what our ancestors went through? Or do you want to truly find peace where everybody has the opportunity to be as great as they desire to be? Yeah. I can't do that. My mind won't allow me to think that way. my emotions won't allow me to feel that way. My gut instincts tells me that that is wrong as hell, you know, so I can't do it. But most people are in that mindset. So this is why at the end of almost every video, I say you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. And it's a journey that we're on. Now, I describe that as best I possibly can utilizing language. But the truth of it all, I have yet to find the description of the words to truly be able to explain it from what I know in my knower to explain it. This is why we need telepathy. We need telepathy, and we need, what was my girl on Star Trek, The Next Generation? She could feel what other people were feeling. I forgot what that's called. But we need telepathy and that to truly understand one another. I know I missed a lot of y'all stuff. Yeah, there was a nuclear war that caused it between those two people. Good, me too. The Earth was an experiment, a zoo created by many different species. I've heard the zoo theory. That's why Eden was an enclosure. It's not a garden, it's an enclosure. They say if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So we'll definitely keep our sexual organs. I'm not. Yeah, we'll never keep them. If that's the case, we'll keep those. I don't believe anything to a degree of religion. I would say that I think that the universe is natural in its state of chaos, and that at some point the chaos birth order and structure arbitrarily. But if you break it down, it's simply chaos. Yeah, they say that order can't come out of chaos, but yes, it does. Order comes out of chaos quite often. I talked about Rwanda earlier, and look at Rwanda now. That order that Rwanda has now came out of chaos. Yep, they are mad off the story. Eternal peace should be the ultimate goal. Yep, Diana Troy, Bantaside, Betazoid. I don't know why my brain it's a little bit blurry, but Betazoid, gotcha. Yep. Yep, eyes a Trekkie. The truth should be live alongside nature, never fight nature. That's why we are and were and we are. It is, and me and Angie was talking like yesterday, and I can't understand. In fact, I can't. There are 4,200 different religions in the world, at least, and each one thinks that they're right. Each religion thinks they're right. But none of those religions can understand the concept, and I might do this as a separate video. If I go outside and I look at a tree out there, in nature, that tree does what it does. It takes in our carbon dioxide, it makes oxygen, its roots go out and spread. Now, the branches of a tree don't fight amongst each other for sunlight. They grow in each individual direction to gather as much sunlight as they can. And they exist, and they provide shelter. They provide for birds and fruit and all this kind of stuff. And the birds provide for them, and other animals provide for them. And it's this natural symbiotic way of life for a tree. You got a whole nother tree that's over in China. It's a different tree. It looks different. It produces different fruit, different size, but it does the same goddamn thing. It just does it differently. It just looks different. All trees, you got trees around the whole world. It's all different. Grass around the world, animals around the world, mammals, reptiles in different variations, but they all relatively at its core does the same thing. Neither tree said that my way of being a tree is right. You don't look like a pine. You should look like a pine. The pine is telling the oak, you need to look like me, and the oak is saying, you need to look like me in order for you to be successful at being a tree. But both are being successful at being a tree, but they're being their own tree. That's us. We can be successful at achieving higher consciousness by being our individual selves and not trying to force someone else to be just like us. The pine doesn't bother the oak. They do their own thing. The only time the pine bothers the oak is when we put them in competition with each other by planting close to each other. What do you think about Bill Gates? I don't think too much about him, honestly. You're gonna get mad at me about this one because I don't really know a lot about Bill Gates. I knew more about him as an IT guy when I was an IT guy, but I just know him from that perspective. I know the big hit on him from most people that I hear is that he thinks that we need to depopulate the earth. It's too many people on this planet. Sorry. If we don't change now, if we change the way we live, I don't have a problem with the number of people on this planet. But I know these ragged ass humans, they're not gonna change the way they live. It's too many people on this planet. Simply because we won't change the way we live. If we change the way we live, have at it. They say that we should reach a pinnacle of about 11 billion people on the planet before the population starts naturally declining. Hey, let it be. Let's hit that 11 billion. Hell, we can go to 20 billion. But people have to change the way they live. There's too many people on the planet for the way that we live, and it's destroying the planet. I'm not saying we should call the people. I'm not saying that. But if it happens, it just happens. I don't state a lot of some of my thoughts on those things because y'all might have me arrested. Yep, that's life of the empath. That's what I was trying to think of, being an empath. You can feel the pain and sense things that are going. Like we all need to be empath and have telepathy in order to truly understand one another. Because language doesn't do it well enough. And humans are dumb. I like that example, Nora. Religion is like a big mirror that has fallen over and broken. People have grabbed pieces of it and look into it and call it God. Exactly. And it's a whole bunch of broken pieces. Okay, Angelina said kudzu, or did you really know? Said kudzu are the Christians of plants. So it's this show called Life After Humans, and it's funny. Angie never really paid attention to all the kudzu in Atlanta, right? And so we watching the show, and it talks about how kudzu would cause Atlanta to burn down again if humans stop existing. Atlanta literally pays teams of people to drive around this city to try to control the kudzu in Atlanta. Like that's your job, is to control the kudzu. That shit can grow a foot a day, right? A foot a day. And now that when we drive around, like yesterday, she was like, there goes some kudzu, and it just chokes out trees. It'll grow up a tree and it'll choke out the tree. It'll choke out every plant. It chokes out everything that it attaches itself to and kills it. But unless you get into the roots, and the problem with kudzu is that the roots of kudzu can go 50 feet into the ground. So it's very difficult to dig those roots out and keep it and kill it forever. But that's what you got to do. You got to kill the root. You know, you're giving me an idea for a whole video now, Angelina, because That's what we do here. This is what the deconstruction is about. It's killing the freaking root. A lot of us got Christianity so deep within us that, yeah, on the surface we can trim it back. On the surface we can cut it all to the dirt. But until we cut the root of it, we can't. Do you know, even when I had walked away from Christianity, and I was 20, 25, 26 at the time frame, it wasn't until I was about 40 that if somebody said, could you take the Bible and throw it in the trash? Could you burn it? Could you whatever to the Bible? I couldn't. Between 20, even though I had walked away from religion, but it was, those roots were still so deep. Between 25, 27 to 40, I still could not have done those things. I kept those Bibles. I moved those Bibles from whatever city that I moved to. It wasn't until I was 40 that I could take the Bible and throw it in the trash. So even though I had walked away from it, I had merely just trimmed the cusses back, and it looked like it wasn't still part of me. It wasn't until I was 40 that I actually dug all the roots out. You know, I could take a Bible. I had a Bible that I was just using for reading, or what's wrong with the Bible reading. Then I figured a way to make it easier just by using my laptop. I could take that Bible, because I don't think I got it anymore. I don't know where it's at. If I do have it, I could take that Bible, take it outside, put it on the fire pit, and let that motherfucker burn. But it took a while for that to be. I said America ain't stopped till it gets that billion people like China and India. We're a long way from that one. That used to be a shit, but then I thought about it. It's kind of depressing. It's exciting to me. I like seeing how nature just takes over. Vines do that too, but they're on that same one they were talking about. Vines only grow at maximum 30 feet long, where kudzu would just keep fucking growing. You know, as long as it has life in it, that damn kudzu just keep growing. It goes back to us destroying ourselves. It goes back to the system failing us, because too much fruit would never be a problem unless the fruit is destroyed by itself. Yeah, it's too much. Grand Rising Eileen. Yep, more to it if you think about it. It comes from other countries. People believe in it would help. Yeah, Georgia actually brought kudzu to help stabilize the infrastructure of the highway system and the earth. And it wound up being a big ass problem. It wound up creating more problems than it solved. What was the guilt that kept you from terminating your Bible? That's it. Really, that tiny, still innate. I had to really get over the fear. It was still just a smidgen of fear that made me say I need to respect this book still. And that's what it was. And it's not fear of going. It wasn't a fear of going to hell. It was a fear of how people would look at me, how my family would. If my family had never shown me that they had less love for me because I walked away from Christianity. But it was like, if I did that, would that cause my family to say, "Oh, you went too far"? Would it cause the people that I allowed to be close to me to say, "Oh, you're going too far. You're being like Nazis or something like that"? It was the judgment of others that had it where I couldn't do it. Until I got to a point where I realized I don't give two, I care about what people think about me, but I don't care at the same time. I care to the point, the same thing, I care to the point where what people think about me matters, but if it interferes with how I think about myself and how I live my life and how I show love to myself, then, to hell with them and what they think. Like, people come on this channel, they obviously don't like me. They can't stand me. They hate what I do. They cast judgments and all those kind of things. I don't really give a shit about what they think. You can think that all day. You can think that I'm possessed by demons and all this stuff. I don't know how to read. I'm ignorant, traitor to black people, all those kind of things. Fine. But if their thoughts and start making me feel that way myself, then that's a problem. I got a problem with self, and they need to get the hell on. But yeah, but those people aren't important to me. If people who are important to me, I was fearful of what they thought. And then, so let's say I cared about what those people thought and I start changing how I live my life, well, let me stop doing these videos because I don't want to upset them anymore. And then me not doing videos will bother me because this is like one of my favorite pastimes. Now I get to call this my job. But it will stop me from being happy. So then at that point, I have to say, well, I can't care about how they feel. I got to do me because I'm not hurting them. As long as I'm not hurting somebody, I'm fine. I've seen some of the studies that say that the science, when they're saying that that trees and plants, they communicate with each other through their root system. Yeah. And at some level, there is a level of consciousness for everything in the universe. There's just less complex and higher complexity. You lost 90% communication with people that you once respected, and I'll do it again. Yeah. I'll do it again as well. I just wish I would have done it sooner. That's all. I wish I would have done it sooner, but I was concerned about how that would affect my children. And that's what took me a little bit longer to do it. Because my family is a big ass family of people who are connected. Like, my kids still grew up with all the aunts, uncles, the cousins, with a plethora of cousins, like cousins to the 3rd degree, 4th degree. Like, y'all know that we do our Labor Day weekend family trip where it's like 30, 40, 50, sometimes 60, 70 of us. They connect like that. So I was also concerned about how it would affect my kids. Oh, thank you, Daddy. Yeah, I appreciate it. So when your dad was buried at the Veterans Cemetery, I was gifted with a big old Bible, and for me to discard it would be like dishonoring my dad. And things like that, I understand. Like, as much as I can't stand America, I have my grandfather. I have my grandfather's flag that he was given. So it's not so much about America; it's more about my grandfather. So I have his flag. So I get what you're saying. My dad was a veteran, so there was nothing like that. But if I was gifted something like that, whatever I was gifted, what I would have been gifted, it would have had that kind of thing to me. It wouldn't have been so much about the Bible, but about the person. So I can understand that one. A said it wasn't for me. For me, it wasn't really concerned about opinions. To me, it's the truth, and that matters more than opinions. Yeah, it does. Now, I think my sister has that family Bible of my grandmother, which had like the births and marriages and stuff like that. If I had that, I would keep it. So I understand what you're saying, Debbie. Uh, I don't understand why if they don't mess with me. Uh, how would they hang? Why would they hang around on Facebook and still be friends? You know, I don't know why. Well, I do. To me, I think that the reason why they still hang out here, they claim that they're here because they have to refute what I say so they can try to keep people from following in my footsteps or thinking away because I'm trying to convince people and convert people. And I say, I ain't trying to convert nobody. I'm just putting out the information, you know, and how I process it and that sort of thing. I could care less about a person changing their mindset or not. Really don't care. Uh, the only person's mindset I care about really is my children making their own independent process of what they choose to do with theirs. And the only other person whose mindset matters is Angelina's because she's with me. Because this is a person I have to be that I'm choosing to be with. You know, I don't want that as a confrontational issue. So anybody else's opinions of what they think, I could care less. You know, but I will say one of the good things about having them is that they make the algorithm work even better for the page. That's one of the things that they don't realize, that I think some of them don't realize, is that they're making the algorithm work in my favor. But then you have some who are they're naturally curious. You know, they are intellectuals and they may still be Christian, but they're also curious and they want to know um, and they bounce things back and forth for themselves. See, Norman said in the front of my grandmother's Bible, it had the family history. Yeah, so I would keep that one. Christian, I really like your channel. You explain things in a way that is easy to understand. I can take notes and do some research. You also are very articulate in the way you explain um, misunderstandings of history. Thank you. Oh, my pleasure, Christian, Mr. Wilder. Oh, and see, I like people like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like all y'all, but I like people like Christian too because we don't always agree, uh, but there's a healthy respect for each other that allows for um, growth. There was another gentleman, I forgot his name. Well, I know why I forgot because that's the first time I seen him post. But he says he's been watching the channel for a while, but he doesn't always agree with what I say, but he respects the information and he goes back and he researches things. I'm good with that. It's the ones that, you're going to hell. You're a demon. Like, why y'all here? Or that it's one dude. Y'all, I'm sure y'all seen him. I think his name. What I can't even remember that boy's name. But all he keep posting these little mean things. And he'll post like 30 of these little damn mean things. I'm like, I used to answer and respond to him, but I was like, I'm not responding to this man no more. He's like in him and what is it, Tony, some dude, Tony. I'm like, why are y'all even here? But they make the algorithm better, so y'all keep posting. Appreciate it. My point about trees and fruits was metaphorical to the premise of Earth being overpopulated. Too much trees producing fruit isn't really the problem. More so the mindset system, greed and vanity. Did I see that one? Fruit would never be a problem unless those fruits are toxic. In this case, the system is producing toxic fruit. Greed is destroying Earth. Yep, I can see what you're saying. Greed is destroying it. But the like I've said, when I do my life coaching, and I really saw this, I saw the most effective. I saw this in its easiest format when I was a personal trainer / life coach. People have to feel a certain level of pain before they change something. Before change happens, otherwise they stay there. So I would always find a person's pain point. Where is your pain point? If anybody ever, when something, let me rephrase, when someone becomes a coaching client of mine, we don't just start out and we just start talking and I take up your first session with learning about you. No, I send you a packet, and it's an onboarding packet. And in that onboarding packet, you literally have to go through your life. And it oftentimes causes people to have to remember things that they may not have thought about for a while, but you got to go through your life, right? And when you go through your life and then I get that information, I evaluate it. One of the things I'm looking for is all the different pain points in that person's life, because I hone in on those pain points to utilize them to cause a person to make the changes that they desire to have in their lives. The earth, as far as people on this planet, we are literally going to have to get to a state where the oceans are about to die, the grasslands are about to die, before we actually make a change in how we live so that the earth can heal itself. And we're not there yet. We got a ways to go, but we getting there. We on the way. We on the pathway. Continue being you. The universe needs you. Appreciate it. I will. Yeah, they done messed up. These last 10, 12, 15 years, coming to the knowing of self is really, you can't stop me now. It's not going to change. And there's no situation in life that I have to hold on to and grasp, to hold on to so tightly that I can't let it go. If my children came to me and said, Dad, we love you, but if you keep talking about this stuff, then we're not going to be a part of your life anymore. I will hug each one of them. I will kiss them all on their forehead. And I tell them, anytime you want your father is here. But I ain't changing because of you jokers. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to change for them because of them. Hey, everybody has their own life to live, to choose. Nothing on this planet is so valuable to me that I would hold on to it to not be myself. There's no person, there's no house, there's no amount of money, there's nothing. There's no beach, there's no lifestyle. No, it's nothing. It took me a while to get there, though. I ain't gonna lie, it took a while to get there. But when you get there, there's a level of peace and freedom that happens, a level of tranquility that comes over you. The only thing that frustrates you is when you see people so far away from it. And you try to understand it, of why they're so far away. But you just can't, because it seems so simple when you get there. Like, all of it seems incredibly simple, and it's hard, like it's right in front of you, but you can't see it. These are some of the things that I think, like when we was doing the Gospel of Thomas, when it was saying that the kingdom of the Lord, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the Father is at hand. It's right in front of you and all around you, but you're blind. Or the leaders that put veils over your eyes, or it's like a dog that sits in front of the trough, and doesn't allow the cattle to eat, and neither does it eat. It's like it's right there. It's right there. But this house, this money, this man, this woman, the children, the family, all these things we hold on to, my pain, my guilt, my shame. Am I going to go to heaven? Am I going to go to hell? Am I living the life that I truly want to live based on who I am? Or am I living the life based on what I've been conditioned to do, conditioned to live? Even when you break free of religion, are you still living a conditioned life? Do you have to live in America, or can you live anywhere else? Do you have to live in a house, or do you have to live in an apartment? Do you have to own? Do you have to rent? You know, what kind of car do you have to drive? What kind of clothes do you have to wear to fit the dichotomy? What kind of relationships do you have to have? Do you in America? Do you have to be polygamous? Do you have to be monogamous? Do you have to, you know, uh, can you swing? Can you not swing? Uh, Somebody said something about being gay. Can you be gay? Can you not be gay? I got to live under these conditions, or can you just let all that go and realize who you truly are? Decide for yourself. Who are you? And more importantly, who do you want to be? What is the me that I'm becoming? And then work towards that to be that, and not give two shits about what anybody else thinks about it. Can you do that? Even though we all come from one, what do you think of the term African Americans compared to Black? I personally prefer African American because of DNA reasons. The Black seems vague. Oh my gosh, you're asking the wrong person. Although Black is a vague term, yes, can be applied to many different nationalities and people groups from all over the world. Um, I'm biased against America. I don't like being here. The American consciousness irritates the shit out of me. The American lifestyle, I do not particularly care for. But I use Black because it's more universal than African American. Black African American isolates. It groups us to only mean those who are here and whose ancestors have been here. Um, you wouldn't meet a Nigerian and call him a Nigerian living in America. You wouldn't call him a African American. You would call him a Nigerian American. I understand we utilize the African American because most of us don't know where our families come from. So I understand the reason why and why that fits for us. And there's a separation between um, Nigerian-born Americans. Like there's a guy who used to come to the lounge. He's born in America, but his parents were Nigerian, and he does not call himself an African American. He calls himself a Nigerian American because he knows where his family comes from, directly. The problem with using Black is that people like to only refer to it as how it's defined in the dictionary. And the dictionary should not be the definition of how things are defined. It's a base, but it's a base that's more of a literal thing and not how it's used in context of community. We know that there's a distinction between Black representing darkness and evil, and Black being a category of people. And even Black in finances are different. If you think about it, Black in finances means that if you say I'm in the Black, does that mean that you're in a negative or a positive? It means, because I know the delay, I'm going to go ahead and answer. It means that you're in the positive. Whereas the Black of Night or Black magic is used as a negative. So the term Black is neither positive or negative. It's all relative to how it's being used. So I prefer Black. That's a long way to answer that question. Don't you think that'll mess up the reparations if it ever happens? No, I don't. Because again, in context, if they ever pay reparations, it wouldn't matter what you call yourself. The only thing that will matter is how well can you demonstrate your family's history in this country because if you institute reparations, then one of the things you're going to have to be able to show the difference between. So like the guy that I was saying that comes to my cigar lounge, his father comes from Nigeria. Their family's been in, he told us one time that he can go back I think he said 20 or 30 generations in Nigeria, right? maybe even more. He won't be able to get reparations because he won't be able to demonstrate that his family has been here through Jim Crow, through Reconstruction. You know, you're going to have to show your family has been here. Like, even if you can only show that your family has been here since the 1920s, you are still, it's highly possible that your family was here during slavery. So then you would deserve reparations. So you're going to have to demonstrate that. So I think the demonstration of that is going to be far more important than if you call yourself African American or not. There are going to be people who can get reparations who don't even live here anymore because they chose to move somewhere else. But they'll be able to show the paperwork, and this country will have to pay if they ever did. I did a video about that. America would be smart right now to give reparations. And if I was trying to maintain white supremacy, I would give reparations without providing financial intelligence. I would just say, here you go. Every person who can demonstrate this in America who's above the age of 18, you do it, you prove it, and I'm going to give you, let's just say a low number like 500,000, right? And I would use a number like 500,000 because most people, 500,000, they think they got a lot of money. They think they done made it. Oh, shit, I'm good forever. 500,000 is not enough for you to live the rest of your life unless you're like 80. But if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 500,000 is not going to last you the rest of your life. It's just not. It won't. Right? It's just not going to be. It can't. Because think about it like this: if you lived off of $50,000 a year with 500,000, that's only what, 10 years of life? It's only 10 years. Yeah, that's 10 years of life, right? 50,000, throw another zero. Yeah, that's 10 years of life. That ain't enough. Unless you 80, 90, it's not enough money. So if you gave $500,000 to most people, say this is reparations. After this, y'all can't say shit else no more. You paid, you good, don't want to hear no bullshit. And we don't have, and you keep redlining, you know, they still got that redlining, got all this kind of stuff. Boom. A good 80 to 90% of that money gonna go right back into the hands of the rich people. It's going back to the rich people. And you're going to have people 10 years later, those people, most of those people are going to be right in the same type situation they was in before. Oh, they went and bought this house, this nice house, and they paid for it in cash, and all they got to do is pay taxes on it. But then the utilities going to be whooping that ass because you know they're going to buy a house that's cost them more than they can really afford, and them taxes going to be busting them in the face every year, and they ain't going to save the money to pay their taxes every year. And eventually their house is going to go into the probate court and they're going to lose the house to taxes. You know, they buying cars and buying clothes and jewelry and all these things that don't maintain value, right? Nah, they're going to lose it. Some of them going to start businesses and don't know shit about starting a business. Then areas going to be glutted with the same type businesses. And those businesses are going to fail. Almost all of them going to fail within 10 years. And then they're going to be back on the labor force trying to get a job, broke like a mother. And then they can't say nothing. They can't complain. The black race, those in America, the black race in America, as they call them, will not ever be able to complain for generations. Can't say a damn thing. And you maintain your supremacy. So that's the long con. I take one step back, I take 10 steps forward because I'm going to enrich the shit out of the people who are already wealthy. We've always been called black, regardless of what time, place, and language, whether it's been swarthy, tawny, Moor, Negro. Yep. Put money together is the owner, but like you said, put money together is the answer. Yeah, people ain't going to do that. The big thing about reparations is creating something that will last for generations, which will keep that money in the family or your pocket. Otherwise, you will end up giving it back to those that took it in the beginning. Exactly. Exactly. Now, if you want to maintain supremacy, that's how you do it. But if you was a president, Congress, and you Senate, and you truly wanted to make America great, then the way you would give reparations is you would say that, okay, um, if I become president of America, then we're going to give reparations to those descendants of the African slave trade, as long as you're able to prove it. But in order to receive that money, we have a training program that you have to go through after you prove that you are valid. This program is going to give you financial intelligence of how to turn this money into wealth for you, because we want America to be the wealthiest country in the world. This class is going to teach you about budgeting. It's going to teach you about safe, long-term financial investments. It's going to teach you about business 101 of how to start a business and all things required to maintain a business, and understanding how to make a business plan so you can know what the financials are involved in a business. We're going to teach you as much as we possibly can. So instead of 80% of the money going back to the wealthy, we're going to mitigate that, and hopefully only about 30% of the money goes back to the wealthy. And you would have a year to go through, we have the year of financial intelligence. And through this year, the class don't take you a year to pass this damn class, and you're gonna have to pass it. If you can't pass the class, you ain't getting the money. I don't give a shit. And you can retake the class as often as you need to retake it. And if it take you 2-3 years to get your money, it take you 2-3 years to get your money. If it take you longer, it takes you longer. But you're gonna pass this class before you can get this money. And I know a lot of black folks gonna be mad. And what's funny is that the higher echelon of black folks who are wealthy are gonna be the maddest black people, because they know that they about to get paid off of I'm gonna get my 500,000, but watch how many of these other black folks 500,000 I get, because they don't know what they're doing with this money. They gonna be mad. You're making it difficult for the black people. This money should be given to these people because they are the descendants of slaves who built this country, and now you're just setting up barriers to ensure that you don't give them that money. Hey, man. As long as they pass it, that's all they gotta do is pass the goddamn test. And people, the ones who don't want to take a test, they're gonna be mad. But I guarantee, once they see people start getting their money, their ass is gonna start taking that test. They're gonna start studying this class and take that test. It'll become the most important thing in their life to pass that test. And every time they fail and they feel that pain, their ass is gonna study even harder. And some of them ain't gonna do it. They're just gonna lie, well, whatever. So especially some of the older generation. Like my mom would probably never take the test. She would never do it. She'd be like, I'm just fine. I'm whatever. I'll be mad and be like, Mom, you need to take that test so that, me and my brother and my sister can get that money. We'll help you with it. But they'll be mad, bro. Oh, no. I ain't talking about 500,000 being split amongst the family members. 500,000, because you won't be able to, you can't put it. Where do you start the split? Do you start with my grandparents and their kids and start splitting it amongst their kids? And then that means that me and my brothers and sisters or my kids get pretty much nothing. So no, it'll be 18 years or older, can prove your family's been here, you get 500,000. Now, that's what I'm talking about, Boondocks. Everybody getting 500,000. That's why I didn't give it a number like 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, nothing like that. I'm talking about everybody over the age of 18 who can show that their family has been here gets 500,000. No, you're not. Of course, none of the people alive today were enslaved, but reparation wasn't paid when it was promised. So now you just got to take the bullet. It's kind of like interest. It's the human equivalent of interest. When you could have just paid, let's see what, right? The census that was taken right before the Civil War ended said that there were about 3 to 4 million people in the country that came out of slavery in America. You had the opportunity to pay the money to 3 to 4 million people. Well, too damn bad that you let human interest occur, and now you got to pay that money to about, if you break it down for everybody who's over the age of 18, you got to pay that money to about 27 to 30 million people. Too bad. Interest occurs, and every year that interest continues to grow. Just like compounding interest is one of the most amazing things. Reparations is compounding like a mother. Oh yeah. Interest and late fees like a champ, because you should. If America was smart, it would have did it back then, and then let them Jim Crow motherfuckers steal it, and then we wouldn't be able to say much of nothing. Well, the federal government did pay those 4 million people the equivalency of 40 acres and a mule back then. Oh, Jim Crow laws took most of that shit. Burning down cities took most of that shit. Flooding out cities took most of that shit. They had the opportunity back then to say 1 step backwards, 10 steps forward, but they didn't. We got our own trading house. I paid for an E-Trade account a while back and got denied, and I had the money then to start. I didn't think they could deny you for E-Trade, because I applied for it and I got it, but I never used it because I just realized this ain't for me. See, land and free education and no taxation. You asking for too much. Now, you go into the deal asking for that. You go into the deal, Maya, and you say we want land, we want free education, we want no taxation, and we want $500,000 per person over the age of 18 that can prove their family goes back to 1930. In America, and because records, that's when records really started being kept. We want that, and then in the negotiations, you settle for the $500,000 with no taxation to that $500,000. You ain't, or $500,000 plus free education. Well, you get the education as the education process in order to get the money. They ain't giving up the land, but they feel like they win something if they deny you the land. So you negotiate it, but you ain't giving up the land, because you're gonna have to take land from people to give the land. We will have to learn how to trade, because like on billions, they can dump stock real easy and take the money. Yeah. The smartest thing that most people would do is buy the house that you live in and any other land that you can purchase. Buying the land will be and educating yourself. Educating yourself and buying land. But you're gonna get educated just in the process before I give it to you. But buying that damn land. Reparation wouldn't just include being enslaved, right? Because Jim Crow, right? That's why I was saying that, your family go back into like the 1930s at least. Yeah, constitutionally, federal taxes and IRS are illegal, but they ain't gonna. You're gonna have to win a Supreme Court decision to get that taken out. Understand, we were promised 40 acres and a mule by a federal general. It was not actually promised by the president or Congress. That was a federal general who promised that. I forgot. I don't think it was Sherman, but it was a promise that he made. And honestly, the promise was only made to those who fought for the Union. Who promised 40 acres and a mule? Oh shit, it was Sherman. I didn't think it was Sherman. Oh, okay. 40 Acres and a Mule was part of a Special Field Order Number 15, a wartime order proclaimed by Union General William Tecumseh. Huh. William Tecumseh Sherman. I didn't know that he was named after Tecumseh. On January 16, 1865, during the American Civil War, to allot land to some free families in plots of land no larger than 40 acres and a mule. Yeah, that was not a presidential thing. Now, the field order was followed by a series of conversions between Secretary of War Edwin Stanton and radical Republican abolitionist Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens. Yeah. Now, Lincoln wasn't so opposed to it, but Andrew Johnson, he tried to reverse it, and he also tried to reverse the Freedmen's Bureau bill, which didn't do shit for us anyway. Yeah, but that was a general's promise. Now, if Sherman would have ran for president and became president, it might have been something different. Thank you. I found Sherman. Yeah, we're not supposed to pay federal taxes during times of war. And basically, what you do to that is, if you keep us they keep us in a state of war. We don't fly our peacetime flag. We actually fly our wartime flag. Yep. And Angelina's going to her family. The natives got land, and look what they got. They figured out a way to screw them over, even though they gave the natives land. Grand Rising. The owner changed his whole writing. Well, I agree they should be taught finance, and I'm not going to say that people don't deserve to have what's rightfully theirs, like most black people have been conditioned to believe. Not saying you per se. No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm just so there. That is the part that some people have problems with my methodology of that, is because I'm saying that you don't get the money unless you do it. I can't give you. There got to be some carrot and some stick. You know, the true carrot is the knowledge of how finances work. That's the true carrot. The true carrot is not the money, but I need to give you also some stick. You know, if you just give it, people are going to squander it. If you make it optional, they're just going to squander it. And we are not in a position. We need more people to earn it than get it freely and squander it, because something like that could literally change the balance of power in this country, which would allow us to have a stake of power. Well, if we all the things that we actually ask for and want and desire, we can have them. You know, Asian people get a crime bill. Why? They ain't got a bunch of people. It's because they own money, or they own land. They own land, they own businesses, they got money to influence the government policies. We don't have that. So although there are going to be some people pissed off, I got to give you some stick. There's going to be some stick. I get what you're saying, but there's going to be some stick. If we had a federal minimum wage that reflects the cost of living, universal health care, universal tuition and fee, college, and updated 21st century infrastructure, nobody would think of reparations. I got a problem with. Okay, here's the problem with a federal minimum wage. What would that federal minimum wage be? And the problem with a federal minimum wage that Every America is too vast of a country with so many different economics. America is like a whole. It's like a bunch of small countries when you look at it from an economical standpoint, because you can't give a minimum wage that you would have in New York to Atlanta or to Iowa or Texas. It's not going to work. You're going to bankrupt some of those. You're going to bankrupt states when you do that. You're going to bankrupt a lot of businesses. The majority of businesses in America are small businesses or mom and pops. I literally, because they opened up that damn Amazon place around the corner from where the popcorn shop was down the street, and they were paying $17-20 an hour. I couldn't find the type of employee that I needed to run the popcorn shop. I had to hire high schoolers, and them jokers ain't dependable. Their parents be doing dumb shit. The school stuff that they doing becomes more important. There were days where I had to shut the dang on shop down because I didn't have anybody to run the shop. Because I'm running the cigar lounge, or I'm running in between both. I got a sign on the door saying, "If you want help at the popcorn shop, come find me down here at the cigar lounge." Then when I'm down in the popcorn shop, I got a sign on the cigar lounge saying, "If you need some help, come find me down here." Because I couldn't find any employees who would work for the wage that I was able to pay. I was able to pay $12 an hour. I couldn't compete with the $15, $17, $20 an hour. So you're going to bankrupt a lot of businesses, or cause people to stay in that ceiling of you will be a mom and pop business pretty much forever. Like you're gonna have to, okay, I'm working my mom and pop. It took me 10 years to save up to open this business. Now it's gonna take me another 10 years of saving up to try to grow the business to where I can afford to pay somebody $20 an hour. Yeah, and that's the other part. They be in the popcorn shop eating your damn stuff up, not doing stuff right. Because them high schoolers ain't like grown folks. They ain't got no bills. They don't care. Yeah, and give me the reparations. I'm not in favor of a federal minimum wage increase. So each state would calculate their own increase. I still don't like it. I still don't like it. I can't get down with it, man. I see more negatives than positives on that one. Uh, I think that I'd rather implement the fair tax. I think the fair tax would be something I'd rather implement more so than a increase in the minimum wage. At least with the fair tax, the price of goods go down so that things are more cost, so that you can afford more things. And then because there's no taxation on food, you get a rebate check every month, which means that and you get a rebate check every month, and there's no federal taxes taken out of your check. So you have more money in your pocket, and the price of things go down. That to me is better than raising the federal minimum wage. Yeah, it did help to bring about the minimum wage, but a fair tax would actually increase the number of people in the minimum wage than increase in the minimum. The fair tax will help create a larger middle class right now than raising the minimum wage. So when you raise that minimum wage, watch how much prices go up. I know businesses that hadn't increased their prices in 5-10 years after the recession, and people started wanting $17 and $20 an hour. In order for them to pay those people, they had to raise their prices. And then when they raised their prices, their customer base got mad because they raised their prices. Like, dude ain't raised his prices in 10 years, and you must get mad because he's raising his prices now. Knowing his cost of goods have went up over those 10 years, but he like, I ain't got to raise it. But employees are usually the most expensive thing that you have to pay for in a business. And when he had to pay the employees, give them $4-5 raises, Break that door. What does it matter if billionaires have to pay lower than what they pay now? Who cares? We get fixated on stopping billionaires and millionaires instead of thinking about what's going to be best situation for the common folk. You're always going to have billionaires, and hell, billionaires and millionaires aren't paying taxes, the taxes that you think they're paying right now. They're not paying a fair share right now if they actually were paying taxes like everybody else. Warren Buffett and most billionaires do not pay themselves a salary. They pay themselves based on a K9. And when they pay themselves based on the K9, they pay 18%. At max, they pay 18%. That's it, 18%. The majority of other places they pay taxes on is on things that they buy, which is what the fair tax would be. You're paying taxes on things that you buy. So the billionaires are still going to pay taxes on things that they buy. Now, because even their taxes they're able to put more money in their pocket, they're going to buy more shit. And so they're going to still pay more in taxes. They're still paying more in taxes right now. Billionaires are still paying the bulk of millionaires, and billionaires are still paying the bulk of taxes in this country. It ain't regular folks paying the bulk of taxes. No, the common folks do not pay the bulk of taxes in this country. They don't. And if they did pay the things, you think millionaires and billionaires are really going to allow for Congress and the president to have them paying the bulk of taxes? Come on, man. That's not going to. They are not. Yeah. Everything I'm saying is that is the richest, the most people who make the highest earners are paying the bulk of the income, the bulk of taxes in this country. The people who make over 500, basically $550,000 a year, pay nearly 42% of all income taxes in this country. And then when you think about the people who are making between 120 up to that 550, no, they're still paying more. And the average income in America is what, 56,000? Wealthy people are paying the bulk of taxes. The middle class and the poor are not paying the bulk of taxes. And billionaires are part of that 1%. They're part of that 1%. But we're talking 1% of 400 million people. 1%. So the 1% is paying the bulk of taxes in this country, and yet you want them to pay more. And how many billionaires are there that is really going to make that much of a difference? Of course they get refunds because they know how to play the game. I get a refund. I don't even pay tax. Don't tell nobody. I don't pay taxes. Fuck that. I ain't paid taxes since 91. But common people do not pay it. And you can't focus on, okay, you say billionaires get refunds as we speak. True, their corporations get refunds, which in a sense is them getting a refund. But there's not enough billionaires, period, to pay enough taxes that is going to make that much of a difference. the billionaires, they know how to do their taxes. The high earning, the 100 millionaires, they know how to do their stuff, but they still pay taxes on property. Like they go when they want to buy a house, they still have to pay property taxes on those houses. They still have to pay. I know you'll get like a 10-year tax benefit if you build a factory or something like that, something that provides jobs in the community, and you might get a property tax rebate on things of that nature. But when they got 10 mansions spread all over America, they're paying property taxes on those mansions, and then they pay luxury tax on an additional luxury tax on top of that, which could be like an additional 4 or 5% on top of that. And when they buy these cars, they're paying taxes on these cars that cost $1 million and all this kind of stuff. So they're still paying taxes. When we talk about the taxes that they avoid, is income tax, where they're only going to pay about 18% on their income tax. They're still paying income tax. You're not going to, most billionaires can't gonna get away with not paying income tax, because they're going to get those. They pay themselves based on dividends and not based on a W-2 salary. So you avoid that. This is why, I don't know if y'all remember when Warren Buffett says that he's taxed at a lower rate than his secretary, because he's getting paid that way. So there's different ways that they maneuver to, and it's not about not paying taxes. It's about them, what their mindset is to pay the least amount of taxes that they possibly can, which if they did it on the regular, like regular people do their taxes, then yeah, they'd be paying like 2 or 3 times as much as what they wind up paying. But they minimize their taxation. Nobody escapes. Nobody completely escapes taxation. When I say I don't pay taxes, I'm talking about income taxes, but I pay taxes in a whole bunch of other ways. The so-called, hasn't the black and white paradigm been used as a way of something like a checkerboard, and also black is absent of color? That's technically incorrect. Black is not absent of color. White is absent of color. Yeah, but that's just spelling. And then, like I said, it's all about the context to which we put it in. The so-called middle class is getting squeezed, though. Yeah, it is. But it's not all rich people's fault. It's the middle class fault too. Let me give you one example of why it's the middle class fault. There's been this, especially the baby boomers and the tail end of the baby boomers, and then my generation, for some stupid ass reason, a lot of them are 10 years from retirement, and they want to upgrade their house and buy a bigger, brand new house. And then they retire or getting close to retirement. How are they going to pay for this house now? Now you got a mortgage. So they have to keep working. Back in the day, you bought a house in your 20s and you stay in that motherfucker till you die. Because you know that when you get ready to retire, you only need to be paying the taxes on it. But they're buying and getting into debt for things that are desires. They are wants. They're not needs. And they're making bad financial decisions. So half of them just making bad ass financial decisions because you're trying to keep up with stuff. Then they be like, and I'm gonna do a video about this person who did something stupid like this, but I'm gonna use this as an example. Do you know how many people I know of and heard of spent all this money to go see a fucking Beyonce concert, and they went into debt to go see a Beyonce concert? Like, where's the control? And then later on, food prices just cost too much. You just spent $3,000 to go to a damn concert, and you want to complain about food prices. You can't complain about food prices to me when you're doing stupid shit like that. You making bad financial decisions on your basic needs. I mean, you're taking your money and you're buying wants and shit like that, and then you want to complain about your basic needs? Hell no, I don't want to hear it. So part of the middle class getting squeezed is the middle class itself. You know, grow. They need to grow. A lot of people need to grow the fuck up. Take on personal responsibility. You know, they have a tendency to look at what someone else is doing instead of looking at what we're doing. You know, I see people. My daughter, I kept telling her, my oldest, stop getting places where you need a roommate in order to pay for the place, because the roommate roll out on you, then you stuck with it. Then it's gonna mess up your credit, and then you're gonna have to move back home. Then you gotta have to fix your credit up again. Then you're gonna go back out there. Stop doing that. But I want to live downtown. I want to live downtown because I liked it when you was living downtown. I want to live downtown. I know I can't afford it, but we can do it together. They promise they're gonna. Okay, go on out there and learn for yourself. Go ahead. She got soft behind now because now she's not moved out of the city. But people do that. I told you I was living in my building, and I'm thinking that, damn, these young people making some money. That they living in this building, they're doing good. I'm proud of them. You know, I walk past their apartment. You know, got milk crates. Fuck, she's sleeping on the floor. They're the same 5 outfits that I see her in. You know, this joker, he got a whole lot of canned foods. Oh, that's one of them boxes from the church mission. You down there get church mission food. Yeah. Mm-mm. Wages aren't keeping up with inflation. I will give you that. Although somebody might have said that, I just haven't seen it. But it ain't all rich people's fault that the middle class is getting squeezed. The middle class is doing a whole hell of a lot of that to themselves. But you can't just look at billionaires, is what I'm saying, Boondocks. You got to look at, it's not just billionaires. If you want to just take billionaires, then yeah, and say everybody else, come on, man. Everybody else is in the same category. That's why I didn't like that 99% march, or that 1% sit-in thing. Because I was like, because they were saying that, you know, only 1% is rich and everybody else is poor. I'm like, man, somebody who makes $100,000 a year is not poor. Somebody makes 120 is not poor. When I made 180, I was not poor at all. I know what poor looked like. I've been poor. When I made 180, I wasn't poor. My friends who make, you know, in the 200s and 300s, them are not poor. That is not poor. You know, so no, that top shit, the top 10% is actually paying the overwhelming majority of taxes. You don't see why billionaires need so much money. You know, everybody. That's one of the things I was talking about earlier, Carol. We can't measure what we think life should be for everybody. It's our own pathway. Some people, it ain't even about the money. It's about like for me, I'm a transactional. I can be very transactional at times. I get a kick out of transaction. I don't care what I'm selling. Like when I had the sunglass, and I was selling sunglasses, watches, and candles in kiosks and malls, I really didn't give a shit about sunglasses. But the fact that I found something, brought it to market, and people bought it, I love that feeling. So I don't get mad at billionaires. They do what they want to do. I just don't like stepping on somebody, crushing people. I understand they got to compete. But when you are maliciously competing, that's when I have a problem. Price of living and sales taxes is killing the middle class. Okay, let me ask you a question, Terrence, on that one. Remember the housing bubble? I don't know how old you are, but remember the whole housing bubble. I was offered one of those $700,000 houses, and I would only be paying the interest based on the LIBOR. But I recognized what the I said, wait a minute, that's just based on the LIBOR, so it's interest only. So at some point, this is going to convert over to a conventional mortgage, which at that point, at a conventional mortgage, instead of my payment being $1,200 a month, this shit going to jump up about $4,000 a month. I can't afford that. And yeah, you can get into it and say, well, I'm gonna sell it before that happens. You know that you ain't gonna do that. They jumped up and grabbed that shit. If the middle class was saying, nope, not buying it, nope, not going for it, it doesn't happen. The builders can't sell it for those prices. The builders have to bring the prices down to where they can sell it to the people. The market doesn't realize that the market sets the price. But we go for the shiny thing that they show us. If you know the, oh, I wish I had a rock. Okay. You know the story. You know the story. Little boy finds a rock. Goes to the market, tells his daddy, asked his dad, how much is this rock worth? Go to the marketplace. Say I'm selling the rock. See what people offer. Goes to the marketplace. Laid it off him $2 for the rock. Comes back home. Daddy, laid off me $2. Then he tells his son, take that same rock. Go to the, no, it's like $20. Then tell him, go to the museum. Ask them how much that rock, how much they want to buy. Oh, this rock is a such and such and such and such. I'll give you $200 for this rock. Okay. Comes back home. Hey, y'all, $200. Mom, we were talking about $20. It's $200. Then he goes to send him to this rock collector dude. Go see the rock collector dude. Oh, been missing that rock, looking for that rock. I give you $200,000 for that rock. Comes back home, $200,000. The value of the rock is what the value people place on it. People need to realize who sets the marketplace. If you don't go and buy a house that you know you really can't afford, you know, this house that I looked at my budget. I didn't give a shit about convenience. I didn't care. I mean, I cared about what it looked like, how the structure, where it's located does matter. My kids are grown, so I didn't care about school districts. But what I care about the most is my budget. How much can I afford on my guaranteed money? That's what it was based on. I'm telling you, I understand. It helps. Charitable contributions in art and things like that help you avoid some taxes, but you're still paying taxes. And artwork don't really help you avoid taxes. You still got to pay taxes on that art unless you don't. But they donate the art to a museum and let the museum hold it for them, or keep it in what is it called? They keep it in bonded warehouses, and then only bring it out when they want to sell it. But there are places to hold taxes, to hide taxes, and they do have Congress in their pocket, but they still paying the most of the taxes. Now, trickle down did not work. I'm with you on that one. Yeah, they bribe them. They couldn't imagine. I got way. I don't know. What did blacks self-identify as before being called black? I know there are Moors who show that we classified ourselves as Moor in the past, but there are others who said Moors are basically sailors. They are. They're North Africans. My family comes from Central West Africa, Central West Coastal Africa. So they weren't Moors. You have to pick where you're starting from when you're trying to see. That's the thing that they do. They pick a spot and say, "Oh yeah, we were Moors because we conquered them Europeans for 700 years." If your family is Zulu, they ain't got shit to do with that. You had nothing to do with that. If your family was Yoruba, Igbo, nothing to do with that. Congolese, nothing to do with that. If your family was Ethiopian, you'd had nothing to do with that. My father's family was Mali, Dogon, nothing to do with Moors. People like to pick a point and say, "Oh yeah, that's my family." Ask them for legitimate papers on their family history. Ask them to prove their family lineage. They can't. them and Hebrew Israelites, I always challenge them, show me the documentation that your family came from this place. Instead, they try to take some obscure thing. Oh, well, there was some black Israelites that were taken into slavery, and then make that the whole thing for everybody. Or some of the Moors, because Moors are actually blacks and Arabs. It's a multicultural group. It's not a one culture group. Higher wages don't massively increase inflation either. Like I said, call them citizens. Where do we put the class of people who are 100 to 200K? Last I checked, that's your upper middle class. See that 99%, that 1% march, they kind of messed it up of how we used to categorize all that. But that would be the upper middle class today. It sure hell ain't that. You gotta look, if the average income in America is like 54,000, and the poverty line, I think the poverty line is, what is it, like 17,000 or something like that? 17,000 in poverty. So yeah, you're 100. I think it starts really at 120 begins your upper middle class. I haven't looked at it in a while. Yeah, it is good. And I gotta go see my mama. I gotta go fuss at her. So I'm about to get off of this goddamn thing. We classify ourselves as citizens. You mean while we have been in America? No, he means, let me not say what he means. That was the benefit of the free trade agreement, lower cost of. Hey man, I'm telling you, fair taxes is the way to go. I'm telling y'all, I've been pushing that damn fair tax for about 20 years now. Good conversation though. Yeah. Here's the thing about it, Boondocks. I always say that every person should own an LLC simply for the fact of why aren't we taking advantage of the same shit that they taking advantage of? There's nothing stopping you from doing it. Open up your consultancy, LLC consultancy, Boondock. That way you ain't got to own any property. Get your business license. Go on vacation. Every time you go on vacation, try to get somebody to take on your consultancy. Send them a whole thing. Overprice it so that they don't pick you. Write the whole vacation off because you was working. Next vacation, have your next vacation is a board members meeting. It's your annual board members meeting. All you gotta do is take minutes of what y'all discuss as far as future plans of the business. Take your minutes, keep your notebook. It was a meeting. That whole we did it this year on a cruise. Make a space in your house as an office. You get to write off a certain whatever the percentage of the space that's your office. Like make your whole basement an office. Or let's say you got 1,000 square foot on the basement level, 1,000 square foot on the top, 1,000 square foot on the top. You got 3,000 square foot house. You make your whole basement office. That's your company space. Now a third of your household bills and interest and all that kind of stuff gets to be written off. You know what I'm saying? So whatever. And I was just using that one so I can show you an easy percentage of it. Let's see what else. Oh, when you buy your car, you sell your car to your corporation. That way, all the gas and mileage and all that, for the most part, almost all of that is written off on your taxes. Every time you throw away some clothing and all that, give it to the Goodwill, and you can write that off on your taxes, your furniture and that kind of stuff. But make sure your cars are written off. Once you start writing off your cars, your vacation, the portions of your house, and trips, and you go out to dinner, and let's say your dinner partner, your partner, whoever you're married to or just partner, they your business partner. Hey, you spend about 2-3 minutes talking about business. Write that on off. You see what I'm saying? Instead of complaining about the other people, I'm not saying I'm not shooting, throwing stones, but let's do what they do. Let's do what they do to save to not have all that, and we can get off that shit. We're being pushed out of the city and accommodating those moving in who are being their wages and cost of living in bigger cities. Oh yeah, y'all gonna get pushed out. See, now you Nashvillians, man, I want to be a Nashvillians because it got villain at the end. I want to be a Nashvillian so I can be a villain. Oh man, I wouldn't even call myself a Nashvillian if I was in Nashville. I'd be like, I'm a villain from Nashville. I just like the sound of it. But one of the things that Black people started to realize here in Atlanta is that every time they regentrify some area, instead of allowing them to push us out, we go in and buy those same properties. Like we start buying the property. We start our own regentrification. Like you can go to the West End of Atlanta, or by West End Mall. It's one of those first areas that Black people's like, no, we're not gonna let you gentrify this without us. We're gonna buy something. We buying these houses too. And we start buying those houses in those communities and knocking them down, putting up nicer houses, start doing the same thing. So now that area is a mixed area now. We're becoming more and more mixed, but it's like, nah, we're not gonna let y'all have that. We're gonna regentrify ourselves. When they did that to East Atlanta Village, there's 4 primary people who bought those buildings down there, and 2 of them, it's 5 people, 2 of them Black, and bought a whole bunch of them buildings. Now those buildings are worth like millions, but well, they weren't worth millions. Escrow, but like worth a million. No. 2 wrongs don't make it right. They make it right when you're balancing it out. Why would you allow yourself? Oh, I don't know if you're talking to me or not. But if you're talking about me telling you to take advantage of the tax situation, I don't see it as a wrong. That's like, so that would be the difference. I don't see it as a wrong, because it's what's in place, and you're saving money so that you can do better financially. See, I don't think the billionaires are the problem, because I think when you just sit and say the billionaires are the problem, then you're scapegoating instead of looking internally and seeing first what are your problems. If everybody who wasn't a billionaire was financially responsible, and there's still a problem, then I'll look to the billionaires. But with so many people who are not billionaires creating their own problems, I'm not going to put that on somebody else. Clean your shit up first, and then we can talk about the neighbor's yard. So I got to see that first. You shouldn't be working multiple jobs and still not be able to pay bills. The price of rent for a standard apartment is a decent neighborhood is comparable to what people are earning here. It's more than just billionaires bribing politicians. You got to take some personal responsibility. You shouldn't have to work multiple jobs to pay your bills. It depends on now. Why is a person working multiple jobs though? What is their value to the marketplace? My daughter had to work 2 jobs for about 6 months, and she was whining about it. And I was like, why are you whining about it? You created this yourself. You are the one who created it. I told you not to move there. You told you couldn't afford it, but you wanted to move there. So now you got to work 2 jobs. I told you to move somewhere where you can't afford it. You have my budget program to use, and you don't want to use it. So it's your fault. Stop crying. I don't want to hear it. And that's exactly how I talk to my children. I don't want to hear it. That's, I mean, hell, I say my children, but don't take it as me calling everybody my children. Because even when I'm working with a client, I talk to them the same way. I'm like, because see, I understand what you're saying. You shouldn't have to. I'm gonna call you the villain since you're from Nashville. I like villain. Uh, but I understand what you're saying. A person shouldn't have to, but before I go ahead and agree to that, I would have to know more about that person because oftentimes we create our own bullshit. We do. We create our own bullshit. You know, we'll sit up there and not and ignore the things that will make us more valuable to the marketplace and not do the process. My aunt, who's retired now, but 30 years ago, she had just missed being fired by Allstate. And she was all worried. She was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, I gotta make sure I don't. I've already put in because she started working there when she was like 18. She's like, I already now put in like 15, 20 years into this company and I still got a long way to go before retirement. And I asked her, I said, well, how valuable are you to the company? I said, the people who don't get fired are the ones who are valuable to the company. She was like, well, you know, I just do, you know, claims adjuster and all that. And I was like, did your company offer free classes? She was like, yeah. Take all them goddamn classes. Take every free class they offer. You know, because see, I was in the military at the time, and I recognized easily in the military that the more classes you had under you, the more valuable you are. They don't mess with you as much. So I told my aunt, take every class you can. She started taking every class that Allstate was offering. Boom, boom. She taking all the classes. And when she took that disaster relief class, and then Andrew hit, and she went down. No, it was Andrew had already hit. Some other thing hit. And she went and did that, and then she was doing all these. They transferred her. She retired from Allstate after like 40, 50 years, it seemed like. She started when she was 18. She's in her 60s right now. So I guess about, 40 years, 40 some odd years. She made herself so valuable that Allstate couldn't let her go. So when a person is working two jobs, I look at the two different jobs they're working. What's the value of that job? Okay, what are you doing to make yourself more valuable to the marketplace? If you're not doing that, and it doesn't matter because you could be working at McDonald's, right? You can be working at McDonald's. I've seen the difference between a person who works at McDonald's and they recognize that working at McDonald's is a pathway that they can earn more money, because shit, I know some McDonald's managers who are making $50,000 a year, so it's not like everybody at McDonald's is making barely over minimum wage. So what are you doing to make yourself more valuable? And what did you do to get yourself in position? I try to work with my kids right now. I tell my kids right now, don't get married, don't have any babies. Because right now you need to figure out your financial life before you take on family and then you are responsible for somebody else. I just saw what Angelina told Chuck. Boondocks, and I don't know if you watch Billions Boondocks, but you do kind of remind me of Chuck in Boondocks. I mean, Chuck in Billions. But yeah, it's a lot to go into it. I don't use that as a blanket. Because I know time frames where I fucked up my own stuff and it was my fault. Well, nobody else's fault but me. The state of the government is forcing a two-person household, a one-bedroom here is $1,100, and the average hourly wage is $17 to $20. Man, where you at, Terrence? Shit. Oh, you don't watch TV too much? Okay. You ain't. Oh, yeah, that's right. You in Indiana. Oh yeah, yeah. We talked about you. We talked about Gary. Uh, man, if the average, average hourly rate here in Atlanta is about the same, but a one bedroom in Atlanta, you paying more than that. I just saw a damn commercial for a one bedroom. It was $1,600 in Atlanta. But on average in Atlanta, you're paying about $1,400 for a one bedroom. Yeah, and we got about the same hourly rate. But I always say, Make yourself more valuable to the company that you're in, and then make yourself, and which also makes you more valuable for every other company as well. If you're not making yourself more valuable, then But and you say they got to work overtime. Hold on. Because finances is one of those things that I do love. So you said between $17 and $20 an hour, so that'd be like $18.50, right? Yeah. So that means that before taxes, that person is making $3,200 a month. All right. You take out their taxes, so let's just bring them down to $3,000 a month. If you got any, I mean, it's not a lot of money, because then when you take out, if they got health insurance and and all of these cars and all that, yeah, it's not enough money really to live in an $1,100 apartment. It's not. That's going, yeah. But if I was making $3,200 a month and the average apartment was $1,100, I'm about to roommate up with some people so that I can save money, because I know a mortgage payment is cheaper than a damn house payment, and it's cheaper than rent. So I can get me a house, right? That's one thing. But I'm also going to look at how I can make myself more valuable, though, without having it, so that I can one day not have another job. Change our financial mindset. Stop overspending on things while also holding on to political and corporate responsible. Yeah. We got to change our mindset financially. The world would change if we changed if the middle class people change their financial mindset, the world would change drastically. I mean, because y'all make me go overtime now. Yeah, I've been considered a threat within a company. When I first got out of the Marine Corps, I was a threat to certain people in the corporation of CVS, and yeah, they tried to get rid of me and they tried to blockade me, but I saved my money and I went and I opened up my own business, and I was like, fuck y'all. I'm not saying that people ain't gonna be out there trying to stop you. My aunt was able to do it without any problems. But I'm sure that there was probably some people that she worked with that tried to block her and all that kind of stuff. But hey, man, that's life. Everything ain't gonna be sunshine and rainbows. So you got you got to make some moves. Terrence, I gave you some moves. I'm waiting. It's just like, okay. One of the things that I was telling Terrence about in one discussion that we was having, you ain't got to save up a big ass down payment to buy a house when you can save up, say, instead of trying to save $10,000-$20,000, save up $5,000. Find you a tax lien that's around $1,100-$1,200, and then you go buy that tax lien. You wait out a year, and then you still got the rest of that money that you can pay for the next year's taxes, and pay for the house being converted over into your name. Now you got a whole goddamn house with no house note at all. No house note. So what I'm saying is that there's always a way. We just don't think about them. We don't want to do them. We ain't got patience. Because I was just telling somebody about a tax lien. I gotta wait a whole year. I can't wait a whole year. I ain't waiting a whole year. I says, you ain't gonna have. I just stopped in the middle. You ain't gonna have shit. I didn't say that because they were an elder of mine. But I was like, you ain't gonna have nothing. You ain't gonna have nothing. I said, you can't wait a year. You've been standing in this place for the last 10 years and you can't do another year? Now, I did talk to him like that. And you can't do another year? I said, that's BS. I said, but hey, if you can't do another year because you got to have it now, you want to figure it out now, and you just now coming to me, to which you knew if you had this idea a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago, because you said something to me about it 2-3 years ago, and I told you then what to do, but you still ain't done it. What do you want me to do? This is how I talk to my family. What do you want me to do? Because you're full of it right now. I don't want to hear it. Either you're gonna do what I'm telling you to do, or stop talking to me. See, y'all get the nice part of me. This is why some of my family. This is the real reason why some of my family members they'll put up with the religious thing because they know I talk to them about finances like this. What do you want from me? Don't talk to me no more. I don't want to hear that bullshit. Stop. Depending on who it is, they might get a bullshit. If it's my aunts, my mom, my uncles, they get the no. I want to hear it. But my uncles get your bullshit. But it's like, hey, I want to hear it. I don't. When it comes to that, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. When some things are so simple and they're right there, and people just refuse to see them. I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and let people and let you say it's the billionaires' fault, it's the Republicans' fault, it's the Democrats' fault, it's the government, it's Congress, it's this, it's that, before you examine your own shit, or before you take advantage of what's already out there right now. You're never going to overcome those other people if you first don't build some shit yourself. You're not going to get it by saying, look at them, look at them, look at them. You got to buy. We should be buying tax lien properties like it ain't no joke. Like it ain't no joke. But we don't. What my man say? I like Boondocks. I got to check out Boondocks. What do you say? What do you say? Good luck paying for that newly purchased house within the next year. We're on course for another financial collapse. The same bankers who blew up Wall Street. That ain't got nothing to do with a tax lien property. If I buy a tax lien property, the economy can crash all it want to crash. But think about it. Think about this, Boondocks, for a second. You find a tax lien property at $2,000. The person's 80-90% of the time, the people don't come back and pay you the tax lien plus 20-30%, right? So that following year, it's the redemption period is over. You go, you pay the $2,000 for the new year taxes. And if there's any other liens, you'll have to pay those. This is why you want to investigate the property very thoroughly before you get it, before you pay the first tax lien on it. You pay the $2,000 for the tax lien. Then you pay, if you do it yourself, it usually costs you about $500 for the filing to have it titled over into your name. So now you've paid a total of $4,500 and you now own a house with no mortgage. None. If there are things you want to fix up in that house, you go get a HELOC loan on the house for about $20,000-$30,000. Fix the house up the way you want to fix the house up. But the time frame that you got to pay this HELOC, you got plenty of time. That's still lower than your rent, lower than your mortgage would be. And you have a house. Government, it don't matter. Unless you lose your job and can't find one, you're good. You own a house. And you don't have a 30-year mortgage on it. So I ain't saying that we should all go buy a brand new house. I'm saying go out and buy all your goddamn tax liens. Most tax lien properties don't even go through at auction. So you ain't even got to wait for an auction. You can go and look at the ones that didn't go through on auction. You can buy those anytime. Go just your local, each county has their own tax assessor. And you look at what those tax assessors, you can look at their list and you can pick out the ones that you want to buy. Yeah, but Chuck was so focused on corporate greed that he couldn't see anything beyond that. And that's TV. In the real world, people are not financially astute and they are creating their own debt and they're putting themselves in a more negative position than they should be in because of their own, I gotta have it now. They gotta have it now. Lots will lose their job. Okay, but let me ask you a question, Bill Knox. If you lost your job, but you don't have a mortgage, which would be better? You lose your job and you got a mortgage, or you lose your job and you don't have a mortgage? You bid on a few pieces. I like the after. I don't even want to go bid. I know the ones that you get better options that the ones that you can bid for. I don't even want to bid. I just want to go get mine. Yeah, we've been indoctrinated. We got to change that first before we start changing all this other stuff. And your Slaughter just said something that is very different from our generation, my generation at least. These young adults are staying home until dang near 30 but they are. These I'm seeing a lot more kids stay home. You want to know why these Indian families are financially in great financial position? No mortgage, exactly. These Indian families, because culturally, they stay home until they get married. And then even after they get married, they stay home until they buy a house, right? Then when they buy a house, that's when they leave. But they stay home and build their economics first. I try to get my kids to understand that part, but they Americanize. But I do have to go because I got to go see my mama. And I don't want to get caught in too much traffic. I got to get over to that side of town before the traffic so that when I'm leaving, I minimize my traffic impact. So I got to leave y'all. I was supposed to have been done with this 30 minutes ago so that y'all going to keep me in traffic. Yep, but keeping up with the Joneses. But I got to go. I appreciate you guys. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll be here at 10 o'clock. We'll start between 10 and 10:30, but we're going 10 o'clock. We're going to try to do it at 10 o'clock. And so I look forward to tomorrow. See y'all guys later. Remember, always you got to free yourself to be yourself because because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. Yeah.